TruthSeekah and/or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and/or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, whoever's watching this show, wherever you are, thank you guys for tuning in. This is the TruthSeekah podcast. I'm your host, TruthSeekah, and we're going to get it in, man. We're going to talk all things spiritual. We're going to be covering some conspiracies today. I haven't really, went down the road of conspiracy theories in a while, so it's going to be good to get it in. We're going to be talking about the moon landing and all that kind of stuff, going in on that. And then a lot of people have a lot of strong opinions when it comes to the moon and NASA and flat Earth and how where all this stuff kind of fits together. So we're going to get it in here in a little bit with my guests. Before we go any further, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who is supporting my work via Patreon. This is a listener supported show. I could not do this without your help. So I just want to say a huge thank you again, as always, from the bottom of my heart, everybody who's supporting via Patreon. So if you want to support, head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. You get access to a bunch of cool stuff, exclusive podcasts, my entire discography, which is like 200 plus songs. You get promo codes for meditations, for merch, all that cool stuff just for signing up. Anywhere from $1 to whatever you're able to do. It definitely helps produce this show. So patreon.com/TruthSeekah. You also get access to our Thursday night hangout, which is the School of the Mystics. This is something we do every Thursday. It's a huge roundtable discussion from kind of like the community aspect to what we're building here. Thursday nights, School of the Mystics, as well as our Discord. That's where we do life. It's about community growing. Thank you guys for that. And then without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in today's guest. This is Dan Smotz from the System Is Down podcast. What is up, my brother?
What's up, Truth? How's it going, man?
Oh, going good, man. Excited to kind of get into this discussion here with you today. You had me on your podcast over a year ago, and I'm glad I was able to return the favor and get you on mine. So we did a really good show together on yours about talking to Jesus through the third eye and spirituality in the Bible and all that kind of stuff. So you guys,
all sorts of heretical stuff.
Yeah, right. So all of you guys who haven't heard that podcast, make sure you go look it up on the System Is Down. So we did a really cool episode. So I want to plug that. So yeah, man, what have you been up to? I know you have the documentary that you're working on and trying to raise some funding for that. We're going to get into that whole subject matter. But, as you know what I'm saying, in general, I mean, what you been up to?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first off, I got to say I'm battling a head cold here. So hopefully this isn't like gross ASMR for anybody listening. But the show is going great. We just past 100 episodes and moving on to different things. We were doing 2 different shows per week, and now I've had to cut out the second show where we were covering the news because I need time to work on to work on things that I think are more important, which is this documentary, where I've just been getting into whether or not we went to the moon, because I think that this is an important topic to open back up, and something that a lot of people just kind of poke fun at and has kind of gone to the wayside as like the, oh yeah, conspiracy theory, whatever bullshit and stuff. Do you cuss on this show? I should ask.
Try not to, but it's okay if you do,
Right.
because YouTube's getting really weird with that now.
Sure.
So
yeah. All right, I'll try and put a lid on it, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That and a bunch of music, bunch of everything. Just life, just trying to figure out what's going on in the world.
So you're making music too?
Oh yeah, I'm always making music. I'm in about 3, 4. I don't know. I've lost count of how many projects I'm working on at the moment. So
I heard that, man.
Yeah.
I was kind of fantasizing this morning about being in a band again, but there's no time for it. I would love to do it and start that project, but there's just no time. And you got to choose wisely at this point, man.
Yeah, I'm grateful. I'm blessed enough that the guys that I made music with in high school, they've all kind of came back to the same area over time. So we just kind of get together and we'll play a show here and there. We'll put out music here and there. So it's not like a band like that we do on the regular, but it gives us an outlet. When we have the itch, we can just throw it out there and don't have to worry about it. So it's nice.
For sure, man. I guess moving forward, let's give a little bit of background about your religious upbringing. Do you consider yourself a Christian? Are you a follower of Christ? I know you have that background. Where are you now when it comes to religion and Jesus?
Yeah, man. I came from a very conservative Christian background. My dad was a pastor and everything. Had some issues with that kind of, nothing against my parents or anything, but some of that fundamentalism, it kind of pushed me away from Christianity for a while and pushed me away from, I went down different avenues, explored different things, like maybe there is no God, that type of thing. But yeah, at the moment I'm open-minded to whatever truth is. I'm open to it because, yes, to put it simply, I do consider myself a Christian at this point in time. And I know it's probably not heretical to your listenership, but if I'm proven wrong, then that just is what it is. If I find out that there is no God or something, if I'm definitively proven that, then really think that there's a God and a creator, an all supreme being that created you, and he's afraid of your questioning things and you being open to like truth in general. If he's mad at that, then I don't understand him. Maybe that's on me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's so weird, right? Being scared to ask the questions early on. Like, hey, bro, you shouldn't be looking into that. You shouldn't be. Right. Like, hold on, there's a hunger inside me, and somebody put it there. Like, I didn't make this up, So asking those questions or whatever. Yeah, some people, you get kind of taboo. Hey, man, I know you think it, but don't speak it out loud. Those kind of things, man. That's cool, bro. So I wanted to just to kind of see where you were moving forward.
Sure.
Just like a frame of reference and stuff. What about I guess moving forward too, set the stage, because some of these questions maybe change, the questions moving forward in the way you're going to respond to what some of these questions I have for you about the moon and things like that. Sure. Flat Earth. Where do you stand with that? Because that could change everything as far as the planets and what they are, and where, if the moon even is real, if it's in our atmosphere, what I'm saying? What do you feel about Flat Earth?
I like it. I like it as a thought experiment. I like all the people that are digging into it. I think it's really fascinating and interesting. It's one of my favorite theories, actually. I've gone on several podcasts defending the theory, just saying, these people aren't nut jobs. They're not crazy just because they think this way. I'm not convinced. I'm open to it. As far as like the moon landing stuff, I'm kind of having to take all the other possibilities and set them aside a little bit just to kind of laser focus in on one thing. Because if you get into it, it's like, well, did we go to the moon? And then you start out with, well, also maybe the Earth's flat, and also maybe the moon doesn't exist. It's like, well, you gotta get off the train somewhere if you're gonna talk about. If you're going to make a documentary about one specific topic. But I like digging into all the things, man, and I'm open to them. But, it's really like the moon landing in particular. You don't have to be like a crazy conspiracy theorist or anything to accept the idea that maybe your government lied to you about something. Like it's a pretty simple simple concept, really, if you dig into a lot of what could have happened. And I think it's something that in history has gotten people to, get the wheels to start turning, start thinking outside of the box. And so I think that it's okay to to not throw in everything right off the bat and just kind of present it as, maybe you're wrong about something. Maybe you don't understand something. Maybe you should humble yourself a little bit to be open-minded about this thing.
And it all starts with one thing. Nobody usually goes into it with like the moon, 9/11, blah, blah. It's usually this one thing that kind of catches your attention, and then it opens up the door. Well, if they lied about this, maybe they lied about that. Maybe they bent the truth or whatever. So we're talking about the moon landing, 9/11, all of the, JFK. There's different things that kind of wake people up. And for me, it was the conspiracies came a little bit after the the whole church thing, because I kind of felt like I looked at the government the same as a teenager, a kid. I looked at the government the same way I looked at the church. Like, these people are not going to lie to you. They're here to help you. They have your best interest in mind. And then you start finding out about the stuff going on in the church, that these people are only after money, and they've been truth a certain type of way to, have this type of scenario that they want to present. And the same thing's happening within the government, and terminologies and bills and puppets and people and faces, and then conspiracy theories and stuff. It's like finding out all this stuff was real. You know what I'm saying? I think it was like, like 9/11 was the first thing that really did it for me with getting into some type of conspiracy stuff. Say, hold on, somebody's not telling the truth here. Then you get into, Tower 7, this tower, like, there's so many people who don't even know about that. This building just kind of collapsed by itself, that, no plane hit or whatever. So anyway, there's a bunch of them out there, and it's usually something, an alarm that wakes people up. You know what I'm saying? And it could be anything. Most people started out with Alex Jones, watching his stuff, how big he is. And most people don't really follow his work anymore. They kind of laugh at him now to see what he's kind of become, more of a showman or whatever, and stuff like that. But a lot of people started out with Alex Jones, and they started out with or the false prophets in the church and stuff like that. So it's something when you're naive and you just kind of lose faith in this type of system that you thought was for you. What was it that kind of did it for you at the beginning?
As far as conspiracies or religion?
Or religion? I mean, to me, it was, they were like the same time almost,
Sure. Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. As far as religion, it might have lined up pretty similarly to what you're saying, but I can't say for sure. But as far as the conspiracy stuff, as all my listeners know, I'm not a big Alex Jones fan. I think the dude's kind of a showboater, and he kind of makes everybody who digs into this stuff look like crazy people. Yeah. I might even go to the extent to say that it might not be an accident that he's doing that, but I would say that he did have a big part in me starting to get into it. Like, I had heard bits and pieces about things here and there, but, starting to look into 9/11, Bohemian Grove, and all that type of stuff from Alex Jones and his documentaries, long before Donald Trump was in the picture, before Alex Jones was like this political figure to push a candidate or anything like that, which is pretty much what he is now. Sprinkle in some, gay frogs here and there and some crazy stuff. But like, just some of the stuff that he dug into early on in the early days of Alex Jones. I'm glad that he took the time back then to make documentaries, back when I think that he was more open and honest about his discoveries. I could be wrong. I don't know. But it's back before he spent literally 5 hours a day yelling into a microphone, when he was just doing research and exploring. And that's kind of what got me into it a little bit. I think there was some stuff before that. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was 9/11. Then I started digging into like Sandy Hook, Boston Marathon bombing, all that type of stuff. And then, how the YouTube trails used to be, as back when we were allowed to be recommended other conspiracy videos and stuff.
Yeah.
Back before they were dangerous, like they are here in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, I think my heart just skipped a beat when you said Sandy Hook. You know, if I feel like the channel's gonna be deleted again.
Right.
You know what
right.
I'm saying? Like you
Yeah,
have to
be concerned about that now. It's ridiculous.
Really weird. Yeah, really weird. I think Bohemian Grove was a big one because the whole fact that your leaders, you know, not only are they lying to you, but they're doing some pretty weird, shady stuff behind the scenes.
Right.
And it gets into homosexual, gay party weekends and cocaine and George Bush and all of these other leaders and stuff. And they're taking pictures with these known gay porn stars who were there at the Grove for the weekend. And you start digging a little bit deeper and say, hold on, these people aren't these conservative cookie cutter Christians that they you know, pretty much say that they are. Then you find other footage of them making fun of Christians, but they're running as the Christian candidate, you know, and it's like, hold on, something's not adding up. And so you start digging and asking questions, man. But the fact that
it's
we're
like,
being,
even if you set conspiracies, even if you like set conspiracy, like, I mean, our brains have a tendency to jump to the craziest possible conclusion a lot of the time. But even if you set all that aside, it's like if there's any, you know, you take something like Bohemian Grove or like spirit cooking, stuff like that. Like if these people are involved in this crazy stuff whatsoever, like even if they just showed up, like why don't we know about this stuff? It seems like as public servants, as they're supposed to be, we should at least know that they're going to these weird rituals and things, just even as spectators, like at the very,
they were just watching,
at the very minor.
It's like Shakespeare.
But like why don't we hear about this in our history books? Why don't we hear about this anywhere? Like, why do we have to go and explore for ourselves to find out that these are happening? If you don't, then you literally have no idea that it's going on. But I don't know. It's like our type of personalities were like, yeah, that makes sense. Everybody else, it's like, they're like, no, obviously that's not happening. But it is happening, and it's been proven that it's happening. Why aren't we talking about it? Like, why? It's not a conspiracy theory. It's happening. These people are doing some weird, crazy stuff. So why can't we talk about it?
Yep. It just leads to more conspiracy theories, man. You just got to look into it.
Yep.
So okay, let's get to the documentary about the moon, the moon landing. Was it fake? You're working on a documentary, The Moon, the Myth, the Legends. I remember around that same time, and a hearing for the first time that and you know, I was working with some inmates at the time while I worked for the city. We worked with prisoners, and one of them mentioned that the moon landing was fake. I thought it was the most hilarious, crazy idea ever, because if you trust the church, you trust the government, the television, the news, they told you it was real, you just took it and that was the gospel, that was truth because they told you. And the inmate told me that, and I said, that's strange. And then I got into 9/11, those documentaries and stuff. But the first one that I heard was the moon landing. And so talk a little bit about what you're bringing to the table with this documentary, because it's done in a little bit of a, you know what I'm saying, different way. There's tons of moon, you know what I'm saying, documentaries and exposés and stuff. Right. What's different about yours? Because you're approaching it a little bit different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to. I'm trying to approach it as humbly as I possibly can. Like, I'm open to being proven wrong, 100%. And I know a lot of people say that, and you might not believe me, but I actually am. Like, I didn't go into this as like, you know, I don't think we went to the moon, and I'm going to prove that we didn't go to the moon. Honestly, before starting to dig into it for this documentary, I knew a little bit here and there about like the Van Allen radiation belts and stuff like that. Some just little bits and pieces of the theories around it. I had no idea though. Like my biggest thing with this documentary is to try and figure out why, you know, if you go up to somebody and you're like, hey, do you think that we went to the moon? And they say no, why are you allowed to call them stupid immediately after? Like, that's kind of okay. Sorry, my brain's all over the place. But like, if I tell somebody that I don't think that we went to the moon, and they tell me I'm stupid, and then I ask them, you know, well, what do you know about the moon landings? And they don't know anything. They don't know like what dates we went, how many people have gone, how many people have walked on the moon, what the process was, what the years were, what presidential administration it was under, how many countries. Like, if they don't know any of those things, then why are they allowed to call me stupid? Like, you don't know. you don't know the official story, let alone what the theory is that I'm presenting to you. So why don't we all just kind of calm down and take ourselves down a couple notches and just talk about this, because like there's some stuff here. Even if I was 100% a believer in the idea that we went to the moon, all the official stories are accurate, everything's correct, there's enough evidence to the contrary to not call somebody else stupid that has looked into it and come to that conclusion. So why are we allowed to call them stupid? Like the whole point of my show is just to kind of show, like, people are people. We all have different variables. We all come from different backgrounds in life. And, the person that you disagree with online, the person that you're screaming at and shouting at, they're not your enemy. They're just somebody who came to a different conclusion than you. So let's chill out and let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, the person you're typing to in all caps, he's he's not so different.
Exactly. Like you'll find that we have a lot in common, and humanity is. I think that if there's any point to all of this, even as a Christian, it's probably the point is to work together to try and figure out what the point is. So let's just calm down a little bit and stop throwing stones. But
I think everybody already knows what the point is, and that's the problem. They've already got it figured out at 16 years old, 18 years old, whatever,
And that's the thing. Like, I think that all of humanity has this huge pride issue, and I've been seeing it more and more. Like, everybody insists that they know things. They know. Like, you've got it all figured out. Well, just one specific example. Scientists just came out and saying in mainstream media that the moon is now in the Earth's atmosphere, and it always was. It's like, well, okay. Think about that for a second. We knew everything a second ago, and now we got new information, and we're like, okay, sure. We just accept it and move on. But you don't stop and think about, wait, that time when I was shouting and saying that I knew everything, I didn't know everything. I knew pretty much nothing. So I'm proposing that we don't know anything, because if you can be proven wrong, then, you didn't know. You didn't know. You were convinced of something, and that's fine. That's normal. But just humble yourself enough to accept new evidence to the contrary of what you've been taught.
What was it that actually did it for you at first when it comes to the moon landing, to even question something like this? Was there a documentary that you saw? Was there a certain theory? Was it that the flag was blowing like it was blowing in the wind, which was a huge one for me? There's no gravity or the different gravity, and if you jump too high, you may float away. But the I'm saying, the flag is blowing like it's blowing in the wind, instead of going straight up or whatever. That's something that kind of does it for me. But what was it for you to make you at least question this whole thing?
Well, but if I can ask, like, how much have you dug into this particular topic?
Not a lot.
Okay.
I've heard, but I know a lot of different theories on it, but I can't say that I agree or believe any of them. You know what I'm saying? I don't, because I don't know. But I'm open. I'm open for the discussion. So,
right, and that's
I don't have a stance. I don't have a stance. I'm like you. I have no dog in the fight. It doesn't change the price of rice in China. It doesn't have anything to do with me.
Right. And that's the thing. I feel like people on both sides of this argument are claiming to know things when they haven't actually dug into it for the most part. Like the conspiracy-minded people, they're like, yeah, we didn't go to the moon, or we did go to the moon, but you ask them questions they don't know, and same on the other side. And same for me. Like, I'm not, like, speaking down to anybody, because until I started digging into it, I was like, yeah, probably not. And then, like, there's mountains and mountains of evidence, actually. So some of the main things, like, there's tons and tons of main things, but some of the things that really have – I started out on the process trying to be unbiased as possible, and the more I dig into it, the harder it is for me to be unbiased, because – and I'm going to be completely honest with that in the documentary. I'm a human, so I have a bias, but the more I dig into it, the more it's just like, oh, okay, come on. There's no way that this is real. But do you know anything about, like, the Van Allen radiation belts or anything like that?
A little bit. Somebody brought that up to me today. Danny Guerrero talked a little bit about it and how they all have different experiences about what happened when we passed through there. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Most people don't know that. According to NASA, that's Okay, we'll come back to that. But there's these radiation belts around the Earth that are between us and the moon, or the moon is like within them. And leading up to 1969, when the first moon landing happened, they were dangerous radiation belts that we could not get through. We could not figure out how to get through, blah, blah, blah. Apparently the radiation belts shut down for about a span of about 4 years so that we could make all these missions happen. And we didn't talk about the belts for 4 years. And then afterwards, there's dangerous radiation belts around the Earth that we're going to have to try and figure out how to get through. And NASA now is trying to figure out how to get through these radiation belts. Didn't we do that in a tin can in 1969? Why are we trying now to figure out how to get through these dangerous radiation belts? But the problem with that argument is NASA is the one, like, without NASA, like, if I'm being open and honest, without NASA, I don't know that there's radiation belts surrounding the Earth. So I have to trust NASA when they say that there's radiation belts surrounding the Earth, and I have to trust NASA when they say that they got through the belts without any explanation. So it's kind of like a back and forth conundrum, but I'm not saying that this is the end all argument, because it all relies on NASA. But all I'm saying is, the things that NASA said leading up to 1969 don't agree with the things that NASA said from 1969 to 1972, and that doesn't agree with what NASA is saying now. So just strange things. And there was a documentary. There's a guy, Bert Sibrel. You've probably seen the footage of the dude getting punched by Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Bart Sibrel. He's made a couple documentaries about the moon. He made A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, which is a great one. And he made Astronauts Gone Wild. And in the latter documentary, it's basically just him going up to these astronauts and kind of sneak attack interviewing them and getting them to own up to some things. And he asks one of the astronauts, I don't remember which one it is offhand, but he asks him, like, so how did you guys navigate through the Van Allen radiation belts? And the astronaut is like, well, I don't think we went up high enough to get through the belts. And Bart's like, well, aren't they're 1,000 miles out? And he's like, oh, well then, yeah, we must have just went straight through them. Like the astronaut, the man one of 12 people who have pulled this off. His life was in jeopardy, and he doesn't know anything about the Van Allen radiation belts. Like, it took a documentarian telling. Like, just some lay person telling him where these things are. You would think that he would have a little bit more knowledge about that, but I don't know.
Yeah. There's a comment here from Sean Becker, and a lot of people talking about this anyway. NASA. He says NASA lies about everything. I'm sure you've seen, I think the flat earthers really, really kind of hone in on this, is the fact that the word NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. Are you aware of that? That's pretty interesting, right?
I've heard it. I haven't verified it personally.
I have. I pulled it up on my I pulled it up on my my Bible Strong's Concordance app.
Sure.
So that's why I do all my research and stuff. But yeah, you type in deceive and it comes up, and that's it. It's real. Like, it really means that in Hebrew, Nasar, Nasar or Nasar.
Very strange.
That's interesting because
do you have a flat earther community that follow you?
There's a guy in here now, the Horry Sheets show. Every time I see him go live, he's talking about flat Earth, and he's got a decent following. So I've got some flat Earth friends. You know,
cool. Cool.
You know,
I just never know what the audience is that we're talking.
Yeah,
to.
No, it's definitely both, man. It's definitely both. Yeah.
Sure. Cool.
Definitely both. It's weird for me with the flat Earth thing because I have friends who believe it. So, and that's why I asked you at the beginning, because it changes the conversation.
Right.
When we're talking about aliens and ETs and other planets, they don't believe in any of that. It changes to interdimensional and hollow Earth and all these type of things, and there's no life outside of Earth. Like, there's just this water and nothingness, and there's some great theories that they bring to the table. I can definitely say this with the whole flat Earth thing. I'm not on either side. I'm like you. I'm open. I haven't came out and said what I was or whatever. But they have a lot of good theories. And here's one thing though. I believe that if the Earth isn't flat, then the people who wrote the holy books were deceived because they didn't understand science, or they're right and NASA and science are lying to us for some reason. Somebody's lying with the two, because when we see all the maps and all the different land masses and the four corners of the earth, they bring a lot of good stuff to the table. And one thing that was interesting that I heard from some flat earthers recently is the fact that when you look at stars, and stars are twinkling and changing colors and stuff, and they mention the fact that it looks like looking at a light in a fishbowl. Like if you're looking at a light underwater, the way it twinkles and kind of moves and glistens with the corona effect, stars definitely look like that to the naked eye. So that was a interesting theory, that outer space was water. And you know what I'm saying, outside of the Earth's atmosphere, which would kind of make sense about the firmament and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to turn this into a flat Earth show, but moving forward, when you would talk about the moon, there is no moon. You talk about planets or Mars, and I'm going to kind of go into some of that, but it changes the way people feel about a lot of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm just trying to take as much of a grounded approach and set all that stuff aside. As much as I love it, nothing against the flat earthers. Love you guys, and there's a good part of me that is one of you. But but I'm trying to just present this like as kind of I want to make it entertaining. I want to make it funny and humble, and just like we can take all the spirituality out of it. We can take, like, if you strip back all the layers of the conspiracy stuff, if you strip back all the everything else. This is a really simple one. This is really, really simple. That's the thing about the moon landing, is like if you tell somebody that you think that the moon landing was a hoax, they're like, so how many people had to know about this, and a giant cover up, blah blah blah. All the
teachers,
things, but,
all the teachers know about it. All this kind of stuff.
It's like no. It's not like all these people got together in a giant warehouse and they said, okay, we're gonna deceive everyone. I mean, the simplest way, like the most realistic, take away all the conspiracy stuff. It was a business. This they wanted to go to the moon, and they realized that they couldn't, and so they faked it. Simple as that. Like it, and if you can accept that, which is not a far stretch, then what else? Then we can explore. Like, this is just kind of I want to present to the
towards that, though. Is that what you're leaning towards? That it didn't happen, and that they wanted to say, we did it, we beat you to it, like with the space race. So are you?
Yeah. Basically, I'm pretty well convinced, and I'm going to be honest. In the documentary, I'm starting out this journey pretty convinced that is the case, and like the space race, we just all hear space race and we're like, oh, we were trying to get to the moon first, blah blah blah. That's not even the case. Russia kind of gave up long before, and Russia put the first satellite into orbit with Sputnik, supposedly, unless you're a flat earther. That's why I say you gotta leave it. You gotta leave that stuff aside. Otherwise, you can go on a tangent for every single thing I say.
Yeah, I know.
But
we can do that anyway without being a flat earther. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So, that's how these conspiracies work.
Right. So Russia put the first satellite into orbit, and then they put the first man into orbit, Yuri Gagarin, and then we started this quote-unquote space race, and we started like the Gemini missions and the Apollo missions and stuff. Most people don't even know that Apollo 1, do you know what happened to Apollo 1? First mission?
Was that the one that exploded?
Yeah, it just burned up on the launch pad. We don't, like, that's not in our history books for some reason. We just start with Apollo 11. We don't care about, Apollos 1 through 10, where we were going financially bankrupt and the whole program was almost shut down before it started.
Yeah.
We were doing terribly, and we only talk about the victories in our history, which is, we did it. Good job, guys. Now don't talk about it from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were, like, if you dig into the history, as far as I can tell, we were in this quote-unquote space race, and we were failing horribly. But there was all this propaganda out there with Disney and everybody saying, when we get to the moon, this is what's going to look like, this. Propaganda all over the place to kids and everything. And Kennedy comes out and says, within the next 10 years, we're going to put a man on the moon. We choose to go to the moon, all that speech and everything. So we had this big this idea that we are going to be this awesome force to be reckoned with. We are Americans. Hooray. This is also around the time of, Vietnam, Cold War, all that stuff. So we really needed a win. 10 years coming up, and we're failing horribly. Russia, actually, their head guy died, and they had a couple failed missions, and they dropped out of the race long before we supposedly crossed the finish line. We don't talk about that in history because isn't it just so American to, make up your own race and then move the goalpost and then fake the goalpost and then say, yay, we did it, and stick a big old American flag in a studio and say, good job, you guys. But so all this is going down, and we get to the 10-year mark, and people at NASA, people who have devoted all their life to this project, are like dropping like flies. Like one of the head guys, James Webb, NASA administrator, it was like very shortly before we pull off this mission, that like the biggest thing in human history, he just retires. He was like, no, I'm not going to have any part in this. And then we had an astronaut and like the second in command or something, like 3 or 4 different guys, like some of the main people at NASA, just bail right before, as most people don't know, under the Nixon administration. We all know how honest that man was known for being. All under the Nixon administration, we put a man on the moon, first try, pull it off, got it, nobody died, everything's good to go. And that's how history will read, because yay, America. I don't know.
Are you familiar
There's
with
a lot.
are you familiar with Joe Rogan's stance on the moon landing? Have you heard him talk about it at all? So he believes that we went, but the footage got destroyed from the radiation, got erased. Almost like maybe holding a magnet up to a, cassette tape back in the day, or a VHS. It would mess it up. So he believes that, and then so to have proof, they had to kind of reshoot the footage to kind of, which that just seems crazy anyway. They would just tell the truth. Hey, we had footage, but it got deleted. And be honest about it versus like, doing some kind of hoax or whatever the case is.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like a lot of the issue with the official story is the tapes, like the footage and the pictures and stuff. They supposedly went through these mass amounts of radiation, which would have, if you put it through an X-ray machine at an airport, it would have been destroyed. So they went through all this radiation to get to the moon and back. So how did the footage come out so clean and clear? That's one of the arguments. But also, how did the people get through the radiation and back? Like, people assume that there's like some sort of lead casing or something, but this is literally like they had to use the most lightweight material, just thin aluminum, to be able to get off the ground with this thing. So yeah, Joe Rogan's idea of, which he used to be a complete denier of the moon landing, and now he, as far as I can tell, he's just kind of open-minded, and I think he still thinks that it was fake, honestly, because every time he brings it up, he's like, yeah, I used to be a total denier. And they're like, his guest will say something like, oh, how could you possibly think that? And he's like, well, it makes a lot of sense. And then he goes down this rabbit trail of how it makes sense that we didn't go to the moon. So I think that he honestly doesn't think that we've gone, but he's humble enough to say, I don't know, because I'm not a rocket scientist, and I'm not going to stake my claim there. But the whole footage thing, to accept that we went to the moon and we had the technology to get men there and back through radiation, through all this stuff, and when they got back, they're like, oh crap, our Polaroids are all messed up, so we gotta stage this hoax just because our footage got messed up. I find that hard to believe. If they were going, if they didn't want people to ask questions, they should have came out and said, if that were the case. That just seems so far-fetched to me that they wouldn't just be like, crap, sorry guys, we went there, but our footage is messed up, so we're going to stage it over here. Like, come on.
There's a lot of theories in the UFO community as well that talk about that the moon was placed there as a border, like we can't go past the moon, right? And it was like almost put there as a marker somewhere that we can't go past. There's a I'm just going to throw this at you. I'm going to read this. It's a scripture. Let's see.
Sure.
And I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but I was in the Hebrew Israelite movement for some time. And they are really against the white man. You know, the white man is the devil, Esau, all of these type of things. And so whenever it appears in the Bible, Esau and Israel destroying Esau, or God hated Esau, they believe that this is the government, people we would call the government, or the white man, or the people who are like the world rulers or whatever. And that could be different people. It doesn't even have to be white people, essentially. This is what they believe. But there's this weird scripture in the book of Obadiah, who we really don't hear quoted at all in churches or anything. In Obadiah is only one chapter, right? And so this is a prophecy against Edom, or the Edomites, which they believe are the the ruling elite that destroy the earth and do all types of wickedness in the earth, right? And then there was this really weird scripture that they would use and say that this. Okay, I'm just going to read it. Obadiah chapter 1. There's only one chapter. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and the ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. The pride of thine heart have deceived thee. And it says right here, this is the interesting part. It says, thou that dwelleth in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring us down to the ground? Verse 4, thou shalt exalt thyself as the eagle. And they would always say the eagle represents America in Bible prophecy. Thou shalt exalt thyself as the eagle. It's on the coin, it's on the dollar, it's on everything, the eagle, freedom. Right. And thou shalt set thy nest among the stars. Thence I will bring thee down, saith the Lord. So they would paint this picture of the Edomites, or mankind, trying to go and dwell up there where God is. And they use this scripture and a bunch of other scriptures that they would tie together and say that we're going to try to get to outer space. Some even say to overthrow God, to come and, claim our place amongst the stars. But the book of Obadiah, there's a really obscure verse there that says that they thought to set their nest amongst the stars. And it said, if you do, God's going to cut you down, because, if we look at the whole Genesis 6 thing, the angels sinned because they came to earth and they were supposed to stay in heaven. They came to earth and took wives and all that kind of stuff. They tried to go back, and then they said, nope, you can't come back up here. You wasn't supposed to leave in the first place. You're not supposed to be on earth doing that. Essentially, it's like the reverse of it. Like mankind is trying to say, you know what, we're going to heaven. We're going to make our abode on these other planets. We don't want to be here anymore. We're going to the stars, which, Elon Musk, and there's a whole bunch of stuff out there with this kind of stuff. But it's very interesting is that we're not supposed to be up there, or we're going there to try to make sense of all of this stuff, or overthrow God. Have you ever heard any of that kind of stuff? It's a very interesting scripture, to say the least.
That's a lot. And man, it's just so interesting when you bring up this topic, depending on who you talk to, where the conversation can go. Because 48 hours ago, I was talking to a guy who insists that we had to have gone to the moon. And we had a very, very dry conversation about just the facts. And now we're talking about spiritual stuff. I love it. I'm not... I would much rather dig into the crazy spiritual stuff, because I love digging into that stuff. Heck yeah. It's certainly possible if you can accept any of the spiritual stuff, which, like I said, I got to kind of even take the Christianity out of the documentary, because it has to be under 2 hours or 3 hours or 5 hours. There's so much to this thing that it could be like a series.
Could go forever.
Right. So you got to I gotta figure out where it's gonna go, and
that's the hard part.
Drive
man.
in that direction. But
that's the hard part.
But there's certainly a part of me that thinks that there's something to that. The Tower of Babel and everything. We're always trying to, have this power. We're always trying to find claw our way out of whatever is and figure out what's going on. And for some reason, it seems throughout history that we keep being pushed back down, like, humble yourself, stop, don't worry, I've got this, basically. So I think it's really interesting, and it's very possible.
Once you get so high, you kind of push that reset button. Or once we technology advances so far with these previous cycles of civilization and ancient Lemuria and Babylon and Egypt and all the different technologies that was believed that they had at the time or whatever, and it's like somebody pushes the reset button, whoever does that, or if it's just a cycle that happens, even if that's a conspiracy, who knows. But yeah, I've heard in the ufology community that we're warned not to come back to the moon. We can't go to it. There's some audio recordings, and then again, who knows which of these recordings are real, and people are staging fake NASA recordings and stuff like that. But there's a lot of recordings, like from the moon and the missions to the moon, where they're saying, hey, we're being followed by these UFOs, and people saying they were being watched the whole time while they were on the moon. Those theories, have you heard anything about that, as far as being warned not to come back? Have you looked into that at all?
I have looked into it a little bit. It's tough because in order to accept those theories, you have to accept that we were able to get to the moon. Like, you have to believe that the government was right in the official story, and we got to the moon. I'm having a hard time accepting that we went to the moon. I'm open to being proven wrong, but as far as I can see in my digging thus far, and again, I'll keep saying it, I'm open. I'm open to being proven wrong, but it seems to me as though we tried to pull a thing off, we couldn't pull it off, so we faked it, and then we told everybody, hey, we did it because here we are. I certainly enjoy entertaining the idea of we went to the moon and aliens told us don't ever come back here.
Exactly, right?
So I'm open to it, but I don't think that we went to the moon, so it's hard for me to really go down that trail. But as far as the documentary goes, I'm kind of just trying to make a doorway to open people's minds to the idea that you might not know things, you might not know everything, and I can't go down every rabbit trail. That's not me trying to shill or cover up anything that I know
controlled
how
opposition.
You guys work, right? I know how you guys work. It's not me. Answer
the question.
If somebody shows me clear, defined evidence that aliens are out there and they told us not to go to the moon, fine. I guess the documentary will go in that direction. But the main thing I want is to use this as a way for generations in the future to at the very, very least, look at history and be humble enough to go, hey, I might not know anything. I might not know everything at the very least. And, maybe there's something to this. At the very least, maybe the person who is looking at evidence and knows more than this about me, maybe they're not insane, maybe they're not stupid, maybe they're not retarded or whatever. So maybe I should just humble myself and listen to them. So that's it. There's mountains of evidence to that point me in the direction that I'm going. You probably have mountains of evidence pointing you toward aliens, whatever. That's fine. But the vast majority of the people out there aren't even looking at this stuff. They don't even care. They're just calling us all crazy. So if we can get them to at least open their mind a little bit to start listening to the simplest equation that says maybe the government lies, then we can talk about aliens. We can talk about all the other stuff. Maybe we can have open dialogue about everything. But you got to start somewhere.
Definitely. And it's an interesting place to start. You mentioned Buzz Aldrin. I'm sure you've seen the footage of supposedly, and I kind of got a bone to pick with We Are Change movement that kind of took that clip and tried to make it go viral and stuff. Luke Rudowski. But he did an interview with a little kid and he kind of misspoke. Yep. I think he slurred his word, and I think he kind of explained himself at the further he went. But they took a clip of him talking to a little girl, and she said, do you think we went to the moon, or why didn't we go back to the moon? And he tried to explain why we didn't go back, and people were thinking that he was saying that we didn't go, like he was admitting that we didn't go. I don't think he was saying that. Are you familiar with that clip?
I am very familiar with that clip, and I am also familiar with how YouTube works and how all these conspiracy documentaries. That's the thing. I'm trying to do something different than all the stuff that's online, because everything online is just discrediting itself by taking clips like that. I'm not saying that Buzz Aldrin went to the moon, obviously.
Yeah.
But that is not evidence. Him slurring his words and talking to a little girl, you're looking in the wrong direction, and you're taking it and you're repeating it over and over again, putting X-Files music behind it, slowing it down, putting it in reverse. Like, you're completely discrediting your argument if you think that is clean, cut, dry. If you think that is Buzz Aldrin literally coming out and saying that we didn't go to the moon. It's not. You know that it's not. Deep down, all of you know that it's not him saying that. He didn't slip up and expose something.
Yeah.
He hasn't gone through all of his depression and alcoholism, keeping his mouth shut, just to now, in front of a little girl with a camera on, slip up and say, we didn't go to the moon. Like, if he was going to make a statement, that's not the place that he would do it. So just be honest with yourself. That's not the linchpin to expose this thing. And that just drives me crazy how our people, like open-minded people, they jump on a thing and then they just make themselves look foolish because they say that this means this when they know it doesn't. It is strange that he slipped up and said something like that, but that is not the definitive evidence that you should be, staking your claim on.
Yeah. It's just silly. Yeah, they definitely lose a lot of, credibility, just trying to get a viral video out there, because I'm sure Luke knew that too before they put it out and continue to push it or whatever. That's just kind of, I think it says a lot about their character. They've been in this thing a long time and understand, about what ad revenue is and things like that. They try to push something like that. It makes me think twice about them. So
I would say to your listeners, go look into Massimo Mazzucco. He's got a documentary. He's an Italian filmmaker. He's got a documentary called American Moon. It's like 3.5 hours long, but it's like all facts, all information. You don't have to just – there's enough to this thing that you don't have to just jump on Buzz Aldrin slipped up and said a thing and then ride that wave for clickbait. Like, if you're honestly seeking truth, go out and watch American Moon or something like that where they're – actually giving you information instead of old man slipped up. Like, you're doing a disservice to all of us who are trying to actually figure out what's going on.
Okay, concerning the moon, what are your thoughts on what the moon is? We've heard everything that it is. What is that thing from Star Wars? The Death Star, is that what it's called?
Death Star.
Something like that. So it's a ship. It's a satellite. It's kind of like the Truman Show, where the controllers of the universe are living, and there's there's civilizations on the moon, on the dark side of the moon. I've heard so many theories that it's hollow. You can go in it. What do you think the moon is? Is it just an old dead planet that's floating? What do you think it is?
I just got to say, we're not talking about the documentary anymore, because I don't want to keep saying I want to talk about what you're asking, but that's not what the documentary is going to be about, because
I got a bunch of questions about the moon, man.
Yeah. I love it. I'm open to it. But yeah, I know that your listenership is different than a lot of the people that I've talked to recently, so this is fun for sure. What do I think it is outside of the documentary?
That seems like it would have something to do with the documentary. I mean, what the hell is the moon? Is it? I mean,
not necessarily.
It's
That's
rock?
what I say. Like,
but what is it? I mean,
I'm approaching the documentary as the Earth is the Earth. It's the ball that's spinning 1 billion miles an hour, rocketing through galaxies, and the moon is the thing that they say it is. Now let's focus on why they're lying about that we went there. Like, just this really small, in the grand scheme of things, I want to laser focus in on a really small thing that people can digest easily.
Just because it's so easy to get off a topic, obviously.
Right. I want to laser focus in so that so that the normal person, not us, you and I, the normal person who's just going about their day-to-day life of I go to work, I come home, I kick my kids around and drink beer. That person, I want to make something where that person can look at it and go, huh, okay, maybe this person isn't insane. If I jump into it, I'm like, the moon is also hollow, then they shut it off immediately. So I'm trying to. For the sake of the documentary, I don't think I even have to talk about what the moon is. We can just accept it's a rock. Sure, why not? But like, I love digging into like the hollow moon stuff. Yeah. Supposedly, we've shot nukes at the moon to try and find water and all that. There's a bunch of crazy crap that people don't know about. We could go down all the different rabbit trails and everything, but can't do it. Just can't for this. But I'm down to talk about it for sure. Yeah. I don't know what I think it is. The projection stuff I think is interesting. The hollow stuff I think is interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not convinced of anything. Yeah. The flat moon stuff I think is interesting, but I'm not convinced.
I'm as far as looking at the spiritual side and how we're connected to it, we look at, like, what I'm saying, the magnetic pull of the moon with the tides, like it controlling the tides. We're looking back into Christianity and stuff, and so the ancient Israelites would follow the moon as far as the cycles about when to travel, when to sleep, like, when to rest or whatever. Every Sabbath was with every new moon, these type of things. We look at, women's menstrual cycle synced with the moon as well. The moon is pushing and pulling water, and our bodies are like 70% water. There's something to it, right?
Yeah, there's something there. And all the things I say, I have to lead with, I haven't done the test, I haven't done the experiment, so I can't say that this is something that I've proven. But, even like the flat earthers, I've seen people do tests where you go out, you take a laser thermometer and you test the temperature of the light coming from the moon. The light coming from the moon is actually colder than in the shade. Like, it should be warmer, but it is leading people to think that there's something shady going on with the moon, because if you point a laser thermometer at the ground that is illuminated by the moon's light, it is cooler than when it is in the shade. So what is that? What is that? Like, when we're all here saying we know all the things, we know what is, and explain that scientifically, please. Like, I'm not saying mic drop. I'm saying, please, legitimately, explain that, because that doesn't make any sense to me. And I would like for somebody to explain how that works outside of, we don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting to say the least, man. And I don't think we do. Somebody knows though, right? Do you believe that? The Vatican, the government? Somebody knows.
Oh, man.
NASA?
I don't know.
I think they do. And that
probably
adds to the conspiracy that somebody knows, and they're telling us these weird theories that get us off.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't want to keep going back to it, but for the people that listen to this, like, I do believe that there's probably some sort of shadow government. There's probably some higher ups that we don't understand, that know the things that we don't know. I do think that. That's not going to be in the documentary, so don't watch the documentary and call me a shill because I left it out, because it's not going to be in there. I'm just going to put that out there right now. We can leave that as it is. That's the documentary. Go check it out, moonmythlegend.com. Now we can talk about this other stuff. I think that there's probably, there's probably some sort of higher-ups that we don't understand. Do I have evidence to prove it? No. Could be. Maybe the guy that you called, maybe he was really offering you a Illuminati guest pass VIP.
Oh my God. Yeah, I seen that, dude. I seen that somebody's like, hey, you should call the number. It's like, nope, somebody beat me to it.
Right.
It could be a series,
great idea,
man.
By the way. Dude,
it was gold.
What? Yeah.
It was awesome. It went better than I thought it would. I mean, somebody knows something, man. I think whether it's the Vatican or NASA, I think many of these things that we're seeking out, this deeper knowledge, the mystery schools, you know what I'm saying? I think that they kind of know what this stuff is and the truth behind it.
I mean, you can't deny that, like, these people, there are certain people in power that are above the law because they do things and they get away with it. Things that if we did, like a fraction of what they do, we want to get away with it. Like declassified, not even conspiracy stuff. Like even just like the Catholic Church. You know, these people, there are certain bad people in the Catholic Church. I'm not saying all Catholics are bad, but there are certain people in the Catholic Church that are molesting children. We know this. We accept this. These people aren't going to jail. The Vatican is saying, oh, they're defrocked and, oh, bad, whatever. It's like, why is that okay? If I did that, I would be in jail, if not murdered, and I should be in jail or murdered because that's a horrible, horrible thing. Why is this just a thing in our society that we accept? Like that happened. Well, they're not priests anymore, so it's fine. Go do those terrible atrocities to children somewhere else, but don't do it under the Catholic Church. Like, what is even going on here? Like, obviously, there's something there that these people. There's some power that these people have over, what we perceive as our leaders and rulers of our government, and how could we possibly think that that's where it ends? Like that's where it stops? Really? No. I have a hard time believing that we know all the things, and I don't know. I agree with you. I think there's definitely some shadowy figures out there that are pulling some strings that we don't know about.
Yeah, and they muddy up the waters for everything, like you said. You know, the whole view of the Catholic Church or Christianity in general or whatever. Yeah. But it goes with everything. It goes with the government. It goes to whatever spiritual movement you're a part of, whatever, you know what I'm saying, enlightenment group that you're with, any cult that you've been a part of. I mean, I've been a part of many on this journey of learning, and Hebrew Israelites and Seventh-day Adventists and just every sect. And there's just dirty people who just kind of find their ways into these groups, and they try to find a place where they can hang out or whatever the case is, or just like some of these groups are just like kind of like a breeding ground for some of these people too, though, you know. But it makes you ask the bigger questions, especially when you figure out that we're not being told the truth. But I think somebody knows, man. I really do. All these questions that we have, I really do believe that those people know what's up. The books that were taken out of the Bible and the other holy books for a certain reason and hid and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So where do we go now, man? So let me just ask you this about the documentary, though. So just from everything you're saying, I know we're talking about some really even deeper conspiracies when it comes to that. But is this more for like the newcomer? Is this more for like, you know what I'm saying, the average person versus the flat earther versus the person who's done 20 years of research? Is it more for the newcomer? Basically, yeah.
I mean, like I say, if you strip away all your preconceived conspiracy-minded everything, just bring it down to a base level, I want to make something that is easily digestible for the person that you pass on the street, to help them start opening their mind to some of these things. Because once you get the ball rolling, who knows where it can go. And not only that, but like even from just a very lay person perspective, we have a pride issue as a society where we think that we know things that we don't. Like we are convinced that we know things. We are convinced because I saw Tom Hanks land on the moon, I can call that person stupid when they think that we didn't go to the moon. Like, what is that? Why are we that way as a society where we can just jump so quickly to tearing somebody else down, even if we don't know anything about them, anything about the variables in their life, anything about the research they've done, even if we don't know anything about the thing that we're arguing? Why are we so quick to say, you're stupid and I hate you? Like, I don't know. Like that's a lot of it. I think that there's more behind this. But yes, to answer your question, in a real answer, yes, it's for kind of the layperson, the newcomer, to just wet their palate and get the wheels turning, basically.
Okay, so what are the benefits of that versus you're just out here confusing people, Dan?
What do you mean?
You know, yeah, and that's what you would hear from your church friends. like how is it benefiting people to get them Is it rational thinking? Is it to let them know that, hey, you've been lied to about this, maybe you've been lied to about that? Like, what's the point? Is it just to promote rational thinking?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's to promote humility, if anything. It's to promote just bringing yourself down a couple notches and accepting that you might not know things. Humility is really the whole point, because you don't know anything about the moon landing. Let's start there. Like, you don't know the official story, so you can't say that somebody else is stupid for their thing. Like, just humble yourself. That's it. That's like the whole point of it. I don't know. Like, the full title, you said the main title is The Moon, the Myth, Legend, but the subtitle is Lunar Lore for Humble Dummies. Like, I'm not approaching this as like an authority figure on anything. I'm approaching it as, hey, I'm going to explore this topic in particular and figure out why people think this way and why other people think that way. And you guys can come along and join me on the ride. Yeah. I'm not here to say, hey, the moon's fake, the moon landing's fake, the moon's made of cheese. I don't know. Like, I'm here to just explore a topic.
Almost like Vice. You know? So you're almost like Vice, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's what documentaries used to be. It was just like weighing both sides and presenting evidence and saying, here's what I found. Do with it what you want. It's kind of just story of my journey to figure out, like, take all the other stuff away. Did we go to the moon? Let's figure it out. Let's go. And we might not figure it out. Of course, we're not going to figure it out. We don't know. But, you know, at the very least, I can say, here's why certain people think this way. Here's why certain people think that way. And let's go.
Yeah. That right there, like you're saying, I think I get what you're trying to do now. It's like, and you have to approach every ideology with that understanding. And I remember when I first got there, versus like I'm trying to convince people why they should believe what I believe. That's the whole Christian thing. We have to convert them and make them believe this doctrine, and that varies from church to church, from sect to sect, or whatever. And they all argue amongst themselves the same way with the moon, same way with the flat earthers, same way with ufology. There's all these different sects within them that war. But the beautiful thing in all of it is, why the hell do you believe that? And so to be open to have that conversation, first of all, there's that humility that we can at least have the conversation. And coming from a Christian background, like, that's a big deal to be able to have that conversation and not argue. And then even though you've kind of reached this level, I'm pretty sure you're going to interview people and find people who are going to argue you in the face, yell, maybe even walk out of an interview. They start shaking, get nervous because there's this. They're committed. They've given their life. When in the terms of Christianity or other religions, they've not just given their life, they've given their eternity. That this is the truth, and I will stake my life upon it, on something that you can't even prove. It's something you were told. And I know you've had an emotional experience and you're really tied to this work, but to step back and say, okay, is it still just as powerful? Would I still believe it if the evidence was changed, if I looked at something? So a lot of people can't. There's that cognitive dissonance that kicks in. But the whole fact, instead of arguing with people, and this is where I come from, instead of arguing with people, I want to understand, why do you believe that? Like, why do you believe that you can have, 15 wives? This is a normal doctrine for some churches, and they still practice polygamy and things like that. Other sects and cults and things like that, why do they operate that way? Why does the cult leader have this much power? Why do they operate this way? Why do they seek power? How do they manipulate people? And then why are other people gullible? And you see other people just like you, who've just been presented some different information from some well-spoken pastor, a well-spoken cult leader, a well-put together documentary by a 15-year-old who's really good with the After Effects and music. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why do you believe this? So are you going to approach other topics? It doesn't have to just keep being all this moon stuff, but will you, do you already have plans to say, okay, next we're going to talk to the polygamist. Next we're going to talk to the Catholic, whoever it is,
Sure. I mean, that's basically what my show is talking to people and hearing their stories. I do plan to do other documentaries in the future. I haven't decided. Like, I'm not big picture. I'm one thing at a time. But yeah, I mean, the podcast, that's basically the whole premise, is just like, I've had on occultist witches. I've had on a guy who claims that he was a vampire, and all sorts of things, like people that disagree with each other. I've had on Freemasons. I've had on all the things. And I'm not like I'm finding that it's like this really strange concept of, hey, be open-minded and listen to a person and respect them as a person because they come from a different background. Why is that such a big concept to people? Like every time I have somebody on, they leave and I've had a lot of people come back and say, that was one of my favorite interviews because you just you respected me and you let me talk. And I'm like, why is that so unique? Like, that should be what we're all doing. Like, especially if we're Christians, like, we should be listening to people. Jesus didn't walk with like the prostitute and then immediately start bashing her and say, this is what you're doing wrong. He loved her first and listened to where she was coming from. I think that's kind of the point to all of this, is to try and figure out what this is together. Yeah. And I could be wrong. Like, maybe the occultist witch that was on my show was right. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. I'm convinced that I'm not, but I don't know. I don't know for sure, definitively. I believe certain things, and I know why I believe them, but most people don't know why they believe the way they do. And I'm trying to figure out why people think the way they do and kind of shake up their foundations a little bit to make people question things and, come to conclusions and just humble yourself, I suppose.
Yeah. I think I'll kind of do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I just want to be the one who's having the conversation, and I get I'm a Christian, but like this isn't a Christian show. You know what I'm saying? So I have those people who talk to me and it's okay. Well, are you just letting them talk? Are you letting them share your platform? They just get all really like ministry minded, but at the same time, I believe this is a ministry as well. I'm able to reach a lot of people. We're going to throw stuff about Christ. We're going to dive into a bunch of different topics. People who aren't going to listen to a Sunday sermon or even go to church on Sunday morning, they have an alternative, because Christians are into this stuff too, guys. Like, Christians are in, like, I think the majority of the flat earther people are Christians, right? Like, everyone's approaching it from like a biblical perspective. So that's something. Somebody needs to talk about it. Somebody needs to give them a platform as well. So just to find out the way the mind works, media, how effective is media, how effective are YouTube videos, how effective are memes to change the way that people perceive reality, their religion, friendships, and things like that. Here's just a comment here from one of my friends. Dumbledore says, he says, I believe in Jesus Christ because the Shroud of Turin evidence, and because when I pray upon him, I feel lighter. Two things there. The Shroud of Turin, I don't believe that that's real, right? But that's what he uses to prove that Jesus was real, was the Shroud of Turin. There's documentaries and evidence proving it, and there's documentaries and evidence debunking it. But for some reason, it convinced him. And then the second half, he says, because when I pray upon Jesus, I feel lighter. I do too, right? If I'm going through, God, I'm asking you to take this off of me. Give me your peace right now. And even as I'm saying it, I can feel it. That's just how powerful it is and how much I believe it. But the other person who, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, and they feel lighter as well. Like, what's going on? Why do they believe that? Why are they having that same type of encounter, doing the same type of ritual, the prayer, the higher power, connecting? We don't have it all figured out. And I think many of us are saying the same things, but just wording it differently. And that's it. And that's a beautiful song and dance for me now, to be able to accept and not have to argue with you why, no, you're using a different name. You're calling upon a different power. That's not really Jesus, and breaking it down. But yeah, just the whole, way that the mind works and people believe certain type of things, man. So Vice and just those whole documentaries are awesome, especially because they approach it from that type of standpoint and usually show you, tapping into places that you've never even heard about, ideas that you've never even fathomed, and it's really cool. Right.
Yeah, and going back to some of what you're saying with like the guy who's talking about the Shroud of Turin, that type of thing, it's like I'm gotten to a point in my life where I'm just like, everybody is just like this big math equation. Like, there's a bunch of variables that have gone into their life. Like, I can't look at a person and say, that person's a douchebag. Like, okay, that person might be having a bad day. That person might have just he might be going through a divorce. That person might have gotten, onions on his burger that he didn't order. Like there's so many different things that go into what a person was at a certain point in time, but we're so quick to just go, that person's a douchebag. Why is that? Like, that person is a person. That person, especially from a Christian perspective, that person was created, in the image of God, and maybe they're not doing it right. Maybe their life is just as screwed up as yours, and they're doing some things wrong. Can we just listen to each other? Can we just calm down, slow our brains down, and try and figure out life together? Because the person, if you look around your community, I don't personally think that any of the people you'll find are really your enemies. They just are people who have come to different conclusions in their life based on all the different variables in their math equation. It's fine.
Yeah. And it's weird with those labels too. There was a guy when I used to go to church back in the day. He was a new guy at church, and some other people knew him before I did, and they introduced me to him. But they said they said something about his head. The guy had a rather large head, and they said, "Hey, this guy has a massive head." Blah 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 blah. And every time, and I didn't come up with that. They said that at first. So when I met him, let me meet the guy with the massive head. I don't know why, just subconsciously. Then every time I seen this guy, it was just okay. There's a kid with the big head. There's a guy with the big head. And I had to check myself, hold on, why the hell is this recording keep playing when I see this person? I'm not able to see past this caricature or whatever, the big head person, right? Understanding why I felt like that was something I could move and get to know him, because I didn't take him as seriously, because he's almost like a character. It's some weird psychological stuff that was going on in my head, but it's the same with all types of preconceived notions. Say, hey man, and it definitely happens in church. Oh, don't listen to him. He's this, or I don't really like this guy, or whatever. And then you approach it because of someone else's bias that they told you. I heard Damon Thompson is a Christian evangelist. He mentioned it with he goes into this with characters in the Bible that we've given them names that's not their name, like the rich young ruler. So we talk about this rich young ruler, this person in the Bible. So hold on, that's not his name. There was nothing rich about him. He was all of this stuff. Or the woman with the issue of blood, and start identifying these people by their character flaws, really their flaws, and you see them as that person, as that flaw. You're not really able to kind of move past to understand who they are, and those flaws could be their belief systems. Oh, they're a Muslim. Okay, be careful. And that's, people just say that about me all the time. Right. Yeah, be careful with TruthSeekah. Just be careful. Right. I know you love them. Just be careful. Why the hell you gotta be? Why you gotta or they'll talk about you'll mention somebody's name, but you'll always add in, I don't agree with everything. Why'd you mention the dude's name, but just, and you felt like you had to say it. Well, I don't agree with everything. Right. That's something I like Dan Smotz. I went on his podcast. I don't agree with everything. What? I like Joe Rogan. I don't agree with everything. I like Benny Hinn. I don't agree with it. Why
nobody
do you have
thought
to
you did
give that
it's
disclaimer?
They're a person.
Yeah, have you noticed that as well? And we start judging people and have to I love them, but that type
it's
of thing.
Fear. It's fear. It's fear. It's fear and pride, and self-preservation. It's very strange. Some family members of mine, I was talking to them about the podcast a little bit, and I was like, yeah, there's a cultist switch on, trying, figure out why he thinks the way he does.
Be careful.
It's just very cut and dry. Yeah, they were like, well, do you have any concerns about that? And I was like, I don't even know what you mean. I mean, I kind of do because I grew up in it, but I don't even know what you mean. What are you talking about? Do you think that the God that you believe in is so powerless that me speaking to another person is going to infect my life?
Yeah.
I wasn't going there.
They do.
Right. Right. And I was like, no, I don't have any concerns because I don't think that demons know how to use Skype. I don't know what you want me to say here. I'm just talking to a guy, and Jesus would have done the same thing. I feel like if there was a man who walked the earth who was the embodiment of God and the same God that created the witch, then I feel like he would probably just be like, hey, you might be right, I might be wrong. Well, I guess he wouldn't say you might be right because he would be right, and he wouldn't really question that. But for me, I can humble myself enough to be like, you might be right, I might be wrong. Maybe none of the things I think are true. That's fine. Like, let's just talk to each other and have a conversation. I want to know why you believe the way you do. Instead, we're just like, oh, witches, evil, terrible, stay away. They're going to, as soon as you look them in the eye, you will be damned for an eternity in hell. It's like, that's the God you believe in? The God that is afraid of you talking to another human? It's just silly. It's just,
when you're trying to perpetuate a belief system or a dogma, you have to protect it. You have to. What is the formula for truth? It undergoes scrutiny. It's laughed at, then it's accepted or whatever. And when somebody brings some other type of information, maybe it's the opposite of what you believe. Maybe it just deviates a little bit in your doctrine. That's why there's so much schisms within the body of Christ in the church. You have to protect it tooth and nail. You have to fight for it. And then in doing that, you have to belittle people. And, and that's what happens a lot of times now. Not even the information, not even the truth that's being presented, is we have to talk about their character. Well, they got into this, that they do this or whatever. And so it has nothing to do with the information. Triple M in the comment section says it's a backhanded compliment, disclaimer, no responsibility. And the weird thing is, I guess I can talk about it because I've done it and I do it, but I try to check myself. Like, hold on, that's just like, nobody even asked me if I believed everything. Which they I think that's for a reason though, because in the church they assume, oh, you listen to TruthSeekah, you believe in aliens, you believe in all this kind of stuff. No, not
you worship
everything.
the devil, right?
You worship the devil with them, really?
Right. Yeah, it's funny because, as far as the whole humility thing, it's like you just look at the Christian church, it's just from a base perspective. It's like you guys are all saying, I know things. I know this. I know this. I know how the world works. I know how all spirituality works. I know how heaven is, what hell is. I know all that. But also, we can't agree on the minutia details of the rapture, pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib. So let's call each other names and split up and divide amongst ourselves, because it's like, well, one of you is wrong, one of you has to be wrong. Yeah. So you're both saying that what are the odds that either of you are even close?
Yeah.
Scientifically, you're probably all effing wrong.
Probably
in every way. And I think that. I think that if there's a God that created us, that he's probably like, you're right. You're right when you say that you don't know, because that's the epitome of humility, is to accept I don't know, and I'm open to finding out.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that he's going to punish people for having an open mind and trying to understand God. That just makes no sense.
Yeah, I've heard the term, just because I'm wrong doesn't mean you're right. I could be wrong, but it doesn't mean that you're right, at the end of the day. So it's real interesting. But, yeah, being open-minded and being humble. But then, they're fighting tooth and nail for a reason. Because if you look into something else and it makes more sense and it has more truth and it brings more fruit, it may be more sexy. It may be more appealing. Right. It may help them more, and they may leave your church. They probably will. I mean, that's the whole reason why when I was doing events in the church, and I do Christian hip hop and do the band thing, playing in youth groups. It was hard to get churches to work together. It was hard to get if a church was hosting a Wednesday night, Saturday night, whatever, concert, pizza party for the teenagers, they would email other churches. They would try to meet with the pastors. Hey, let's get all the kids in the community. They couldn't do that, because if they brought their kids to your church and they experienced something that they didn't at their own church, then they ran the whole liability of losing them to that church. Maybe the sound system's better, maybe the worship's better, so they couldn't work together because there was a fear of networking, because they would lose followers. That happens in the podcasting realms. That happens in every realm. Happens in so much so in the church realm. And that was kind of one of the things that really turned me off, because I found once I kind of got out of that and started moving more in the secular market and more of the even in the spiritual market, like that wasn't there. And that was you know what I'm saying, a breath of fresh air when I could network with people, and there wasn't like scared and like
when there's not teams and judgment.
Yeah, like trying to, you know, want to give a statement of faith and make sure you believe with their doctrines and stuff. It just gets really weird, man. Right.
And it's like you're inviting me into your church to play music, and you're insisting that I agree with, or I say that I agree with your statements of faith. Yeah. What if I don't? So you, as a Christian, are asking me to lie for the sake of spreading the gospel? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, I mean,
do you want me to be honest and human, or do you want me to continue to, you know, pretend along with you that I've got it all figured out?
Yeah, it's definitely foolish, but they do it to protect their empire. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it works. It's working for them. You know what I'm saying? To keep the questions down. Because if you're asking the bigger questions, if you're presented with bigger questions, if you watch this interview and you want to look into the moon, there's probably people who watch who never heard that there was a moon hoax. I remember the first time I heard it as well. You're going to ask questions, right? And then so those you're not going to get the answers unless you ask the questions. But it's about looking into it and trying, you know what I'm saying, trying to get to the bottom of it. And they're doing it for good reason, because they're trying to protect their corporation. You know, I used to do that though, because I was so like and when it comes to trying to change the way people think and giving them the truth or whatever, I would go undercover in these churches. Like, they would get me, so that's why I know why they were doing it. I would go get asked to come and perform at a church, and they'd let me come up and perform for, 200 kids or whatever, and then we're handing out pamphlets, signing autographs on the back of pamphlets about how Christmas was pagan, and it was like Christmas trees all in the foyer of the church, and we're like, we got to get the truth out there, man, by any means necessary, so he's like being real vigilant or whatever, but thinking that I had the truth, or it was my responsibility to tell them about Christmas trees. And it's the same type of way that everybody thinks. We look
doing
at
the Lord's work.
Yeah, as a know-it-all, you know what I'm saying? As the end authority, because I looked into it, or I did some research or whatever, right? We look at just the human experience.
The good Lord has anointed you and appointed you on the war against Christmas trees.
Yeah, so no, there's people who really believe that, and we sound silly.
I know, it's crazy.
Exposing it. Hey, he did. Yeah. He did. Tell him it's wrong. For real. I made a lot of enemies doing that, but the truth kind of does it, right? And then so you start getting persecuted. Yeah. You start losing friends, and you're like, it's because y'all don't want to hear the truth. I've been trying to give y'all the truth on 9/11 and on this. It's like, no, you're being a jerk, man. You're being a jerk. You've changed. You're not the same person. We can't just have a conversation. You're always making it about conspiracies. You're always making it about religion. Or why are you always talking about the Muslims every time we hang out? Why are you always pointing out symbolism in the buildings and at the restaurants? Like, what? Hold on, you're changing, bro. It's consuming you. You're not the same person. Yeah. Did you go through that phase as well?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure we all did.
The start of the podcast.
A lot of people are still there though. They're still
working on some relationships because of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like everything is a conspiracy. And maybe it is, but I don't know. Like, and so I'm not gonna I don't know. I mean, I don't even necessarily feel like I was like trying to preach to people, but it was just like as you're kind of putting some pieces together, you talk about it a lot, and that kind of is off-putting to some people. And I think a lot of it's fear-based on their part, because if you like on our show, we talk about conspiracies, politics, and religion. If you talk about any one of those three things, and if you like have a reason and you know what you're talking about, it'll shut down the conversation real fast, because people will just go, whoa, if you're really not trying to be a douche right now, but like a lot of times if you like bring up politics or something, people will get defensive because they don't know about politics, and that's fine. Like, I'm not here to say I know what is. I'm here to say, hey, let's explore together and figure out what is. I'm not looking for people who agree with me. I'm looking for the truth. That's all.
Have you been in or around shouting matches when it comes to the Bible doctrines or conspiracy theories or the government or Masons or anything that where people are so like their dad was a Mason. You're like, man, the Masons worship Satan. Like, dude, my dad is a Mason. He doesn't worship. Yes, he does, bro. Let me show you. Your dad's a devil worshiper and you don't even know it. Like, I've been in those conversations. Have you seen any of that?
I don't know
stuff?
that I have. I mean,
Really?
I've poked around at some family members who are Masons and been like, like in the early days where I was just like, everything's evil. I would like kind of poke the bear a little bit, but no, I've kind of kept a even keel from a,
I was really
very
vigilant about it.
so.
I was a vigilant Christian, like the young man Mario. But even people like that who are just trying to point out the, you know what I'm saying, the negative and everything. Everybody, because of your research, wherever you, and this is why I kind of like the way you're approaching the documentary, they believe something because they've been shown some evidence, or they had a teacher who was really well spoken who taught them that this, or their parents were racist because they were, you know, beat up by the opposite race, or black people, or whatever the case is, or white people, right? So they have this type of bias, this prejudice about them for a good reason, because that's their experience. It might not be my experience. My experience is totally different. So when we get into religion as well, you look at YouTube. Any topic you pick, let's look at Mario the Vigilant Christian, his channel, right? Hundreds of thousands of subscribers and views, and a lot of it's like fear-based, like pointing out the Illuminati rituals and everything, and the devil is in everything, and he's showing you, and like maybe they even show like the New Age and say, you know, this is why I left the New Age and found Christ, and there's tons of videos for a bunch of YouTube creators, why I left the New Age and found Jesus. And then you may find something else, why I left Christianity and have embraced the New Age, why I have, and then other people say, well, you know, I did Kundalini yoga and I got possessed by demons, or I meditated and I got possessed by demons. Other people, I meditated and did Kundalini yoga and I met Christ. And I felt the Holy Spirit, and it changed my life. So you're going to have, everybody's having these different experiences, but they're coming out as the know-it-all. Stay away from Kundalini Yoga. Right. Why? Because I got possessed. That's not everybody's story. You know what I'm saying? And just to understand that,
there's people that will get turned off by it without that even being their story. Just, I heard a guy got possessed by a demon, blah, 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 because that's evil. Like, okay, well, fine. Okay, like that has nothing to do with me and my story. And actually, after you came on my podcast, I had a couple people leave our group because they're like, "Oh, he's talking about third eye. He's being open-minded about things and listening to other people." It's like, so, and Christian people left because I was talking to another Christian about a different interpretation of scriptures. Different, like, it's just a humility thing. It's a pride thing because they thought, you know, this is how the world works. They've got it all figured out. And TruthSeekah, he's an evil person because he's dabbling in dark arts and blah, blah, blah. It's like, so they completely left and they're not a part of the thing anymore. It's like, I'm not here to say that you're right. I'm not going to continue to, you know,
what has that done for your audience, though, right? Because, you know what I'm saying, just on that subject, you lost a couple. Maybe you gained a couple. Maybe you gained a couple. Like, how does that work? Because
I don't want the closed-minded people, so good riddance. It's fine.
So, but like, what's the majority? Because a lot of people, even in the chat now, hanging out with us, people have biases. People believe certain things. They want you to kind of be their spokesman. You know, okay, yeah, he believes what I believe. I'm gonna ride with him until you. With conspiracies, with religion, and with politics, we're really weeding out a lot of people. You're into conspiracies, but you love Jesus. Damn, you lost me at the Jesus thing, bro. You lost me. You had me at Flat Earth, but you lost me at Third Eye. You know what I'm saying? So we're like weeding out a lot of people. This is very niche, right? It's not where we just tap into Flat Earth and that's all we do. Flat Earth, all Jesus. Nothing but Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Oh, with Jesus and the
build
third eye.
A much faster audience if you take a stance and say, I know things, and this is what it is. I'm
so
not going to do that because I don't.
They can only ride with you a certain way. Okay, you had me up until the mushrooms.
Right.
That's a bunch of them for me. You're the Christian who does mushrooms. No, I did mushrooms. They were great. Like, it was a beautiful encounter. I'm not going to deny it and act like I didn't or say I was possessed or whatever. Like, so I have to quit. I don't, and they look at me as one who like continually is doing them. I don't do mushrooms all the time, but I'm not going to be silent and say I did. I'm not going to go on the New Age show and not say that I have a beautiful relationship with Christ. And that's how I found out who God was through the Christian church and through Christ. This is my story. And just to welcome that eclectic bunch of people who are here with us now. It's beautiful when we can hang out and not argue. When we can present different facts or different beliefs and why we believe them. I know why I believe this stuff because I went through it. It doesn't mean I'm right. I know why I believe it. I'm sure you're kind of the same way. That's how you approach this, with humility and be able to have a civil conversation with these people.
Yeah, and it makes, like, when people come back to me and they're like, wow, you're doing something different, it makes me happy that they're like, they're like appreciating the open-mindedness, but it also makes me really angry because I'm like, why aren't we all just open-minded and humble? I mean, this is not a new concept. I mean, we can say all day long, well, Jesus didn't like the gays, or Jesus didn't like drugs, or Jesus doesn't like these four-letter words that we made up in English. Yeah. But I feel like Jesus talked a whole lot more about loving people than any of the garbage that we're focusing on. So if you believe in Jesus, why don't you start there? Why don't you start with humble yourself and love people? Because it seems like he was a lot more concerned about that than the gays. So, we can talk after that. But if you can't have a conversation, then you're not humbling yourself and you're not loving people. So you got to start there. You got to work on the plank in your own eye before you can start pointing out all the stuff that's going on in the world. So,
and then you start finding out, like the documentary, as you're doing research, you start finding out why people believe this. Because with the Bible, I've been involved in many sects and I've studied that thing like the back of my hand. You can prove whatever you want with the Bible, a book that big, that old, that much difference in the translation, and then you can actually go into the Greek and Hebrew to kind of give yourself some leeway and some playground as well with trying to, present a doctrine or a theory. But what makes the person believe that at the end of the day? And what I've found out, and I've done a little documentary, I don't know if you checked it out, but it was called Persona. And it's talking about channeling and looking into the spirituality inside like that. And a lot of these people have a scapegoat. And so it's not that God hates gays. I mean, you can those people who have those belief systems, and that's their motto, that's their banner that they march under. God hates gays. I know people who have T-shirts. They stand in front of churches. They go to spring break. They had their kids with them. I mean, 7 and 8 year olds preaching God hates fags at Panama City Beach. You know what I'm saying? I know those people, and they believe it. When they read the Bible, that's what they believed in, the stuff that was presented to them. Other people, like myself, God loves gays. Like, you know what I'm saying? God loves everyone, right? Or whatever. So you can take the Bible or any type of information and kind of manipulate it to make it say whatever you want to say. Right. But why? I don't think God hates gays. I think you hate gays.
Right.
I think you have a problem with witches.
Wear a shirt that says "I hate gays."
They really do. Like, I knew people, and they were like a big deal. And and so they use the Bible to back up what they already believe. I mean, we all do it, really, knowingly.
It's just confirmation bias. It's not like actually looking for truth. It's subconscious. Like, I've got this variable that was instilled in me. That's my foundation since birth, or not birth necessarily, but childhood. Yeah. And I'm going to look all around and try and pinpoint the ways that I'm right. It's not like I'm going to look around and try and figure out what is. It's like, let's find. I think that there's God, so I'm going to find God in all the things. It's not like, let's look around and see all the glory, and then, wow, there's probably got to be a God for this to be as magnificent as it is. Like that. Yeah. That's how I've come to it, and me too. Like my faith in God is much more real now that I'm able to throw it all out and say, well, what do I honestly think? Why do I think that way? It's not because I was taught that. It's not even because a book says that. Like, there's a part of me that thinks, like, I have no problem with biblical errancy. Like when somebody comes to me and they're like, well, I don't believe in God because there's a bunch of things in the Bible that contradicts itself. And I'm like, fine, that's fine. That's not fine. It doesn't change anything because I think God's bigger than the Bible.
Yeah, I know, right?
If we have changed things in the Bible, if we have taken books out, if we have changed words, we know that we've translated it. Obviously, it wasn't written in English, so things have changed.
But then you got the Mandela effect too. Or the Mandela effect, where they changed the Bible.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that? Maybe?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of our first episodes, digging into some of that stuff. But yeah, like as far as my faith goes, like I don't need the Bible, and I know that sounds heretical to a lot of Christians, but it's like I think that the Bible, there's a very good chance that the Bible is written and inspired by God. But also, I think that if it's inspired by God, there's a lot of times where I feel like I'm hearing the voice of God and God's telling me to do something. God's telling me to write something down or make a piece of artwork. I don't know that he is. So maybe when some things in the Bible, just hypothetically, when God told man to slaughter whole societies, maybe that wasn't God. Maybe that was man saying, hey, for my sake, I need to go slaughter this society, and I feel like God's telling me to do it. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. It does not matter.
Or maybe it's symbolic
doesn't
and
make
allegory.
God any more or less real. Right, sure.
Symbolic and allegory.
It doesn't make God any more or less real whether or not you believe that the Bible is fallible or infallible. There is truth, and it might be that the Bible is 100% accurate, the Word of God, but it doesn't have to be. And that's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, man. I remember a couple months ago, I was sitting in here and I was playing a video game. I was playing League of Legends, and somebody pulled up, and this old black man got out, and I looked out my window. I was like, "Who is this?" I was just sitting out in my shorts, and I didn't have a T-shirt on, and I'm covered in like sacred geometry and biblical tattoos or whatever, and I just run out there with my shirt off and said, "Hey, how's it going?" And he's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about, the wonderful, work of Jehovah." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I used to welcome that conversation because I would love the battle, and I would watch YouTube videos on how to dismantle their doctrine, and like that's what I used to get off on years ago. But at this point, I could give a damn. You know what I'm saying? Because I know why I know he had somebody who he's probably had a rough time in his life, and a Jehovah's Witness reached out to him and showed him the way, and that's why you believe that doctrine. I understand that, but he wanted to go into. I was just trying to find common ground with him. I was trying to get back to my game before we lose because I was online. But anyway, he's like talking to me. He's like, "Hey son, what about those tattoos you got there?" And I have on my chest. It's a scripture out of the book of Sirach that was actually out of the Apocrypha book that was taken out of the Bible. And it's a beautiful scripture. It says, "Strive for the truth until death, and the Lord shall fight for thee." It's out of the Apocrypha, and it says Sirach 4:2 or whatever it is. And he said, I know what that is. I know what that book is. I said, okay. He said, you think it's inspired? I said, I think it was in the earliest versions of the Bible, and it's definitely in the 1611 and a lot of early versions. The disciples had it, like they had these scriptures, right? And he said, well, God took it out for a reason. So well, he left it in there for a period of time for a reason too. I don't know that. I don't know if I believe you that God took it out because maybe God put it in there and man took it out. Anyway, he kind of was looking at my tattoos and he jumped on that one at first, and I was like, he wanted me to debate him about that book, about it being in the Bible. I said, look, it was inspired. It wasn't inspired. I said, well, how do you know it wasn't inspired? There's some beautiful words in there that inspired me, and inspires other people. What do you mean it's not inspired by God? I said, sir, what if you wrote a book about your journey, about how you overcame drug addiction and all this kind of stuff? Is that book not inspired? Oh, yeah, that would be inspired. Well, why is this book not inspired? Because God took it out.
Should we put it in the Bible?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You need to look it up and see why. I said, sir, I know I was taken out. Then he's looking at my caduceus tattoo, and it's the, the serpent going around the stick. And I'm not trying to get esoteric with him. I used to brag about the stuff and try to go in that. That's another stuff. I said, sir, I got to go, man. That man kept me out there. It was
got a game to play, dude.
Standing out there with my shirt off, like, he was just like dissecting all my tattoos. I'm like, sir, I'm not trying to do this with you today.
Right.
But I enjoyed the conversation. Back in the day, I would have tried to convince that old man. I would have even said, I was vigilant about this. I would say, sir, I would have took the stance and said, sir, you're involved in some things that you don't know what you're practicing. You're involved in demonic activity, extra biblical. Like what he's trying to do to me, I would have tried to do to him and went on that battle with him. And I used to do that. But I'm in a much better place now where I can just be open to the conversation.
Right. Yeah, and like, I mean, we probably both grew up in a church, the church mentality of, every single person you see on the street is somebody who needs you to talk to them to save them from the pits of hell. It's like, well, that's a lot to put on a child. So, please, you're going to have to convince me really strongly of that. Otherwise, I'm going to live a whole life of guilt. And I have a hard time thinking that a loving God wants us to live a whole life of guilt where every single soul that we come in contact with, we are responsible for. I mean, Jesus wasn't 100% all the time saying, this is how you must be saved. Do these rules, follow this, do this, do this. It's like, no, Jesus, it seemed like he was a humble, chill guy who liked to love people and walk with them where they were. And I think that speaks a lot more to a person's situation than you meet somebody on the bus and say, hey, have you heard the good word about the Lord Jesus Christ? This is how you must be saved, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's not going to make anything stick. That's not going to make that's not going to change somebody's heart or even change their mind. That's just going to probably piss them off and make more firmly solidify their opinion about Christians being annoying. That's all that's going to do. But I feel like the humility and what the things that Jesus really talked about, if you live it, if you become the embodiment of Christ, if you humble yourself and be open-minded, that is kind of a ripple effect that will spread to people, and you don't have to even use words to convince them that God exists, because that dude over there, he's just an infectious dude, because he's like open to what I'm saying. He respects me. He loves me. I want to be around that guy. So that infects that person with that kind of mentality that's a possibility, and so on and so forth. I think that there's a lot to that we just kind of gloss over, and we're like, yeah, be humble, be kind, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Now, let's go back to Facebook and yelling at people about feminism and stupid stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, we put so much poison into our mind, into our lives, and like through social media, is Facebook helping your life? Is Facebook making you happier? Is Facebook, putting good, happy thoughts in? Like, is Facebook making you love your fellow man more, or is it making you this cynical douchebag? And I'm really trying to control my language because you asked me to.
Yeah, man.
I would speak much more, I would say biblically, if for the YouTube rules. But
I'm wondering now, though, like, we've already come this far. I'm wondering if this is going to be, what I'm saying, some of the words that we've used, is this going to be demonetized already? Let's vote. Yes or no? I don't want it to be. I need a few dollars. Sure. This is a good episode. There's a lot of people watching live. You know what I'm saying? So is this going to be demonetized? And so that's weird that that thought passes through my mind, though. That's the bad thing, because I don't think we've covered. We haven't even really. Well, we said Sandy Hook 3 times now, and
right.
Maybe I should 4. Spell it out. 4. God,
Sandy Hook, Sandy Hook, Sandy
Hook.
Juice.
I'm done.
Juice.
Godly, man.
Yeah.
But this is weird that we have to think like that.
I can't monetize any of my stuff anymore, so I just say what it is.
You covered too much?
I guess. Like, I mean,
did you get demonetized, or you just haven't been monetized?
I haven't gotten demonetized, but 90% of what I put out, they're like, no, you can't monetize that because they don't want ads on you talking about that. And it's like, all I'm doing is talking about the news, like just saying what's going on in the world. And you're like, well, you don't want ads on the news. Well, go turn on the TV. That's what's happening. What are you talking about? I don't know. YouTube's stupid.
It is, man. It's really weird. This whole thing is just super weird. Now I'm looking too, and let me. I want to. There's this in your YouTube hub in the back. There's this creator studio, right? And then so when you look at your dashboard, at the bottom there's this recommended video from YouTube, like some of their creators and some of their people, and you get to kind of see who they are, and they're answering some of the questions now about demonetization and curse words, and I watched the videos on them, and it's really weird because there's this spokesman who works for Google, but she's trying to be one of the YouTubers. Hey, what's up, guys? Smash that like button, blah, blah. And it's like, hold on, you're like one of the. This isn't real. This is an act. You know, hey, what's up, guys? You know, the whole YouTube, what's up? And that's how they start their videos. I've even probably done it doing my gaming stuff in the past. What's up, guys? You know, and this chick is doing it, and they're showing you all these, and you're talking or watching to these Google executives that work for YouTube, and they're trying to be crazy. They're trying to talk like this. What's up, guys? And it's like, hold on, man. This is an act, and I could see right through it, but you're trying to be one of the normies. This is very strange. It's really weird.
As you come on here to tell us why we're being deplatformed, you're gonna pretend
you can't use those words, guys. What's up?
Sorry, guys. Get out of here.
It's silly,
Talk about the Jews. Sandy Hook. Sorry.
It's really weird. I'm done. But yeah, I mean, you know, I had my old channel deleted. I don't know why. I had several channels. They were all connected to one. It got deleted. I'm about to hit 10,000 subs on this channel now, and I've been working hard to be consistent. I got in early and monetized this new channel before, you know, the whole adpocalypse thing happened, and the whole let's make sure you have 1,000 viewers and 4,000 watch hours. So I was able to catch it earlier to make a little bit of money. It's not a lot. It's taxed, right? But it helps to be able to do this full time. Are you podcasting and doing what you're doing full time yet? I'm pretty sure I know you have side hustles and stuff too, which I still do as well. But
yeah, I actually run my own media business. I do wedding videography and graphic design, and I have a media company that I run for my main thing. The podcast is just like I am trying to not approach it as a business necessarily. I'm trying to approach it as my exploration into what is in the world, and you can come along, and I am completely transparent. Like on my Patreon, you can see that I'm making pennies off of it, and that's fine. I'm okay with that because this isn't about money. This is just about me trying to figure out what is and change the world one uncomfortable conversation at a time, as I put it.
Are you in a so you're having these uncomfortable conversations, but are you in a place creatively where you're comfortable? Do you like doing the wedding photography? I'm sure wedding photography pays pretty good, right? That you can, like that kind of money can open up a side hustle or give you time, you know what I'm saying, more time to podcast, because when I do this work, it brings in enough money. So are you cool with that balance, or are you in a good spot with that?
Moment, yeah. Everything's flowing well, especially as I get some of my mental stuff in order. I'm able to be creative all day long, which is great. And do the podcast as kind of a way to, well, I'm like, believe it or not, I was like very much an introvert and a type 5 on the Enneagram and all that fun stuff. But so the podcast is kind of pulling me out of my shell to be more real, be more raw, and force me to have a deadline for creativity on a regular basis. Where, like with music, it takes me forever to actually. You know, go that last 25%, go like, I love the idea, I love this process, I love making a thing, and then I can never finish a thing. With the podcast, it's been a way to make my brain go, you got to do this Monday. Every single week you put it out, whether you feel like it's perfect or not, you put it out and you move on to the next thing. So it's been kind of a mental exercise for me just to Are you
doing live streams?
We tried live streaming for a while. We did our news show, our second weekly show. We did that as live stream, but I just ran into so many hurdles with the internet problems and getting kicked out and all sorts of stuff that I was like, I don't need that kind of stress in my life. So I'm just gonna go back to pre-record.
Yeah. So you're talking
we
about.
We might go back to it sometime, but
it's fun, man. I enjoy the community here with the chat. Shout out to everybody, you know, hanging out, and a lot of cool questions there. I'm trying to read all the comments and stuff, so I do see them. Let's see. So you mentioned getting your you know what I'm saying, your mind straight, your mind right. Have you struggled, or do you deal with depression or mental illness or anything? I know you had Joey Svensson on from you know what I'm saying, formerly of Emory and of the Bad Christian Podcast, who that's his big thing. He talks a lot about, as a Christian, being okay with, hey, some things aren't working right in my head and I need help, which we couldn't. From a Christian, you had to get prayer to kind of get over that. You know what I'm saying? Do you struggle with any of that, or is it it's like chronic depression or anything that's a struggle for you?
Depression, yeah, and I didn't even realize it until started taking some DXM, if you want to really get demonetized. But some mild psychedelics that pulled me out of a funk that I didn't realize I was in for a long, long time. Realized I was depressed, and actually realized that I struggle with ADHD, which is actually probably what led to a lot of the depression, because I have a hard time, like I said, I have a hard time focusing on things and getting through a project. And so that leads to like me not dedicating myself to things. I struggled with paranoia, struggled with not trusting people around me, and it caused a lot of problems in relationships and family and all that type of stuff. And right now I'm, working through it. So,
yeah, it's kind of taboo, man, you know, to talk about from a Christian perspective, and not even just the Christian perspective, but also the spiritual perspective. And I would 100%, there's a lot of people watching this show who are going through some weird, even mild psychosis. We're talking about the moon being hollow and beings living in them, or the earth being hollow and entities communicating with them through the earth. We cover some really out there stuff, and I believe there's truth to a lot of it. But then again, like I was talking about religion and even the spiritual community, it's a breeding ground for people who hear voices, right? We talk about this. We talk about, you know, maybe you're not crazy. Maybe you are empathetic. Maybe you are picking up on energies that other people with their strong personalities, and you can't look at them around in the face because of the energy. And like, there's another way to look at a lot of the stuff. But then on the other side of the seesaw is maybe I'm dealing with a mental illness, and it's really hard to compare the two. Coming from the Christian perspective, it was all demons. Everything's demonic. Right. Any mental illness, any type of illness, spirit of infirmity, we're going to cast it out. Right. You got depression, let me cast it out of you. You know what I'm saying? Versus changing your diet. You know, people obese and just treating their body any type of way, and not knowing that has, you know, plays a part of your health in the way that you feel, the way that your brain works, or your second brain, which is your gut, your stomach. But what are you putting in your body? It adds all of this stuff to it, and I get those comments, man, and sometimes it makes me not want to answer my damn inbox because I get them so much, you know. And it's weird.
But
I've talked
people
about it.
Jump into everything's a demon.
Well, that not really that. More just of the mentally unstable people who think that I'm a god reincarnated, who think that God sent them here to be my wife, like a woman who's like stalking me and my wife, wishing harm upon my wife because she's my rightful wife set by the Freemasons. Like, I think you're mentally ill. You know what I'm saying?
You're running some crazy circles.
Yeah. No, I don't run it. Like, those aren't my. Get away from me. Like, I don't want to entertain that stuff, but unknowingly we are. Sure. It is crazy, and it is crazy for out there spiritual. Etheric, I'm a Palladian from the fifth realm of density, and I've come here to bring you good tidings. Like, those people, they're there. But I'm telling you, and I know it sounds crazy, it's funny, the UFOs and the aliens, but there was just as many crazy people in Christianity, bro, who would say, God told me that you're supposed, and versus Zeus told me that you were my husband. We've seen the God told me you were my husband, and God, and even though you're already a married man, happily married, you're the pastor of the church, God spoke to this woman and said that y'all were supposed to be together. Like, weird stuff like that. And there's this weird breeding grounds for this stuff. So, and I get it too much. It's sad, man. And I talk about it a lot. I don't know what I can do about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Do you get any of that? Not
no.
Really? Damn. Just me.
No. So I say, like I dig into all the things, but I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with you going down. You go down more of the esoteric and spiritual realms. I
Conspiracy.
I touch on it for sure, but I just.
But some
I'm
of
just
those,
like, hey, let's talk about all the things.
Yes, I mean, some of those diehard conspiracy theories. I mean, we're even looking at targeted. You know what I'm saying? Targeted individuals. Like that's a thing. And there's a lot of people, and that kind of laps over to the spiritual, that the government's monitoring, the government's sending me thoughts. There are these cell towers outside of my house that change the way that I feel day to day. I mean, that's in the conspiracy circles. That it's kind of a big thing right now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Have you covered that?
The
Have you talked to
5G
those
stuff?
people? Yeah, the 5G.
We're going to be talking. We need to talk about 5G before it happens, and all of our brains are scrambled. But there's a lot of strange stuff going on. And I'm just trying to figure out what is, trying to explore, trying to whatever, and love people along the way. And
yeah, right.
No, I don't end up running. Thankfully, so far, I haven't run into too many of the people who think that I'm a god and they need to take out my wife to be with me or something like that.
I don't know. Bullshit, man.
Yeah, I haven't run into that yet. No.
Yeah. Good. Praise God.
Yeah.
No, but obviously it comes with the territory, you know, it comes with, you know, the big, I don't think it's going to go away. You know, I think this woman would maybe go away, but there's others. You know what I'm saying? And with religion and with politics and with conspiracies, like the bigger you get, they're coming, bro. Like no, for sure, for sure. You're gonna get the hey, I'm a targeted individual. I need you to get this implant out. Help me. You're gonna get you're gonna get that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know.
And then at the end of the day, you always have to be rational and be humble because you don't know what you're talking about with everything, right? What if they're right?
Maybe they do. I don't know. But
what if they're right?
If you show up at my door with a red Solo cup in your hand and you say you've got an implant in your head, I don't know what to tell you, man.
I know.
I love you. I hope that you can work on more than just that implant in your head, and that's all we can do.
It's crazy. We don't know. And I joke around and I say, you know, I joke around until the whole wife thing comes up because my wife doesn't like me joking around about the wife thing, right? Like, but I say, like, you know, what if these people aren't lying? What if I die, get to heaven, and talk to the Father, and he says, you know, I sent the Archangel Michael to you, and he sent you messages on Facebook. Like, I get those messages. Hey, I'm the Archangel Michael. Do you believe me? Let's meet together. I'm going to travel to you tonight. I like how
angels use Facebook.
Yeah, for real. That's why
they can travel to you if they message you on Facebook.
Yeah, like if you can, like, what do you mean do I believe that you are? Like, if you are, you can show me. You can appear here in my room or whatever, you know? So show me. Don't ask me if I believe you without any type of evidence. But what if I get to heaven and and God's like, look, I sent the Archangel Michael to you. I sent your real wife. Don't tell my wife I said this. I sent you your real wife, and she tried to tell you that your current wife is an alien, is what she says, and that y'all are supposed to be. And I've met my mother, who is reincarnated from a past life, who's trying to reach out to me through Facebook Messenger. You know, and these people aren't being funny; they're dead effing serious. They think that they're my mother in another life. I remind them of their son, maybe. You know, who they lost their son. And I'm with you. I want to get to why do you believe that I'm your son? Is it random? Or did you have a son that I remind you of? Right. And you're like, that was my son. There's something, a kindred connection. I don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? Why do you believe that? Is it a chemical imbalance? Did you watch too many documentaries? What is it? I have compassion for you. I don't want to make fun of you, especially if you're dealing with mental illness. You know what I'm saying? So it gets into some weird.
But also, don't stalk me.
Definitely don't stalk me. Like we had to go file police reports. You know, because I do live appearances. What if she shows up? You know, like this is real shit. Like for real. You know. Huh. What do you do?
It's crazy stuff, man. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, but.
No, but you know,
I like that you're open to like maybe I'll get there and he'll be like, yeah. The Archangel Michael, he came down, he embodied this old woman, and she stalked you on Facebook for a while. Like, maybe,
you should have listened.
Until
Why
I'm
were you too stubborn?
I'm just going to feel bad for you.
Yeah, you were stubborn, Derek. I tried to, you know, wanted to show you things in the spirit, but you wouldn't follow them, you know? You asked for revelation.
You wouldn't click follow on Facebook.
You blocked them.
Right.
Like, you have to, I really feel like you have to laugh about this kind of stuff or it will drive you mad. It really will. The spirituality, the conspiracies, and the politics, those are the big three. You have to laugh about it. You have to, and they say, well, it's too serious. Why are you laughing about this? You know, people are dying. People are being deceived. NASA and the moon, and they're killing people, and Pizzagate, and all of
we're pretty sure. We think that's happening. Like,
no, we know. And
it's horrifying. If it's happening, then let's expose it. But we can also be human and, tell a joke in there. It doesn't mean I'm making fun of an atrocity that happened. Yeah. I'm just being me. And me is sometimes off-putting to others, and that's fine. So
that's the whole
thing. Click on another podcast.
Really. I mean, that's the whole thing with the whole Alex Jones or Sandy Hook and all that kind of stuff. And I talked to ODD TV, who has a really big channel, but he was on here. Yeah. And I was kind of condescending towards conspiracy theories just because I've kind of been there and done that. But I mentioned, this whole thing about the Sandy Hook. And then they're like, these people know. There's no thinking. There's no let's do more research. Right. There's some interesting information. They know without the beyond the shadow of a doubt. And at the end of the day, with these conspiracy theories, especially when it gets into that kind of stuff, and the staged, whatever you call it, controlled opposition stuff. But if you're right, and you get to the bottom of it, you're a hero. And these people are actors, and they're hired, and they're on Craigslist. There's ads on Craigslist. That's fake. We can go in and make one now, screenshot it, upload it. Hey, look what I found. You're a hero if you get to the bottom and say, look, this really didn't happen. Your kids died in vain, whatever. But if you're not, if you're wrong, and you're declaring like these people do in the faces of someone who lost a child, and you're telling them that, hey, your kid isn't really dead. You're hiding them. We all know it. Nobody died in these events. You're the biggest douchebag ever. And you're, and they're doing that. I mean, that's why Alex Jones got deplatformed, right? Essentially. Right.
And that's what I've said from the beginning of our show. Like, I'm not going to come out and say 9/11 was an inside job. I might come out and say, let's look at 9/11 and see why people think it was an inside job. And I might even think it was an inside job, but I'm not going to tell you it was. Yeah. Because more than likely, people died, and I'm not going to pretend like they didn't. I'm not going to, try and boost my numbers by saying, it's all fake. Nobody died. Whatever. People probably died. Okay, just chill out. And that's the thing about Alex Jones. Like with the Sandy Hook thing, I'm gonna keep saying it. So make sure you get deplatformed. When he came out and was talking about it, he said definitively, "This is what is." And he always says, "This is what is." He knows what is.
Yeah.
It's like, and because of that, you have to backpedal because you keep making these false claims that you know what is, even though you weren't there. Unless you were there, you don't know. There might be a piece of evidence that you're missing. Just say, "Here's what is. Here's what I've found. Now do with that what you want." That's kind of my point. Like, I don't ever have to backpedal because I've never said I know a thing. I've always just said, let's explore together. Let's explore the world and try and figure out what is together. And I'm never lying because I'm never saying I know a thing. I'm just saying I know that I found this. That's the only thing I know. Do with that what you want. That's on you.
Yeah. I'm there too, and I think it comes from the Christian background of saying that I was right and this is the way and this isn't the way, and that kind of thing. So now I'm a little bit more open to other belief systems and people thinking outside the box or whatever the case is. Because at the end of the day, we don't know. They could be right. I haven't done it. Like people will say, okay, so you're promoting that all roads lead to heaven, like all religions lead to heaven. Are you saying that? I don't know that. I haven't practiced all religions. I've practiced this one. And I can tell you the inside. I
also haven't been to heaven.
or to God, right? It's like, I know that this one did. And I've seen people on this other one that seems to be very similar to where I was. And this person on this other one. So maybe. But then again, there's people within all of those religions, all of those conspiracies, all within those groups who are crazy people. and it need to be exposed. And the government and the Vatican, all of them.
Yep.
You know, there's some beautiful Catholics out there, man. You know, there's some beautiful Christians. They say, there's some cool Muslims. Oh, there's some cool Christians too. You know, you have to throw that in the mix, and I've been there and done that, I guess. Yeah,
in our forum, we've got Catholics, atheists, Freemasons, Muslim. Well, I don't know if we have any Muslims, but gays, all sorts of people. Just like we're just here being human together. Yeah. And if there's a point to life, and if there's a point to church, it's just to, in my opinion, it's to. I mean, in the Bible it says love your enemy. I would say that maybe don't even consider them your enemy. Just love the person that you're talking to. Just humble yourself and converse with humanity, because you don't know things and neither do they. So let's just talk about it. It's okay. Just calm down.
Here in the chat, Triple M says, and I'm assuming they're talking about Alex Jones, but says, but he's a performance artist. Not his fault they can't read between and separate the man and the truth. I'm assuming they're talking about Alex Jones. What do you think about that? Like that, I'm definitely, if I get in trouble, I'm gonna scream that TruthSeekah is a persona. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm ready to say it.
Right.
I made it all up. TruthSeekah is a persona. You know, I'm into spirituality. You know, I'm not, but I'm willing to say it. If my life was on the line, maybe, or whatever.
Yeah.
So because that's what Alex Jones did. You know, he said, I'm a character, I'm a persona online. This crazy guy, crazy conspiracy, and I'm playing a role. Like he said that in court. His kids were on the line. Mm-hmm. He would take his kids from him. What do you think about that?
I've had Alex Jones' ex-wife on my show,
exactly.
Kelly Jones.
You did, yeah.
And getting the other side of that story, she says that he's a monster and a douchebag, but she also doesn't say that he's Bill Hicks, and she's lived with him. There's so many different ways to approach the type of thing. Like I've definitely had thoughts of maybe Alex Jones is paid off to, throw out tidbits of information, be controlled opposition, and lead people down a crazy path and make conspiracy people look crazy. But there's also another part of me that's like, there's a lot of compelling things to the Bill Hicks argument. If you actually dig into it, it seems crazy, but there's a lot of stuff there. But Kelly Jones, I also choose to believe her that she's known him as Alex Jones. I'd take her at her word. Maybe she's lying. I don't know. Like there's so many possibilities. For Alex Jones to come out and say that he was playing a character, if I'm being humble and honest, I can say, if I'm taking him at his word that all the things he's saying he believes and whatever, he's just human. Sure, he could have just come out and said, it's a character, because if I'm in court and I'm fighting for my life, for my kids, and he probably has a whole lot of mental issues too. I'm gonna say whatever you need to hear so that I can keep my kids. So
that's what most people do.
I'll throw the whole business under the bus, and if I can still keep the business after, great. That it goes back to the Buzz Aldrin thing. Like, stop assuming that every single little tiny thing is a mic drop moment. Alex Jones said that, so Alex Jones is a shill. Like, maybe not. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not. It's not his. Stop just playing the same things over and over in your mind and putting them on YouTube for 3 hours, the same clip over and over with X-Files music behind it. That is not a mic drop moment, and you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing the whole truther community a disservice by putting those out there. You are becoming the controlled opposition by buying into that and just running headlong into the darkness with your flag that has one tiny bit of evidence that isn't even evidence of anything. Like, I don't know. It's crazy.
I really believe in a happy ending, right? I want a happy ending more than anything in life. You know what I'm saying? To kind of go out and whether it's, lead a legacy, die happy with your wife in your arms, something like that, kids by your side, whatever. Maybe everybody goes at the same time. I really believe in a happy ending, and maybe so because I'm seeing so many bad endings within my own family and friends and things like that, and people who were in church and then they were ministers and now they're on drugs, strung out, but then we look at, so I'm really big into this happy ending thing, and I look at what's going on in Hollywood. And so we talk about the Illuminati in paying a price for fortune and fame to be in Hollywood, to be one of the A-lister celebrities. There's this notion that in order to do that, part of that persona or part of that deal, and I've seen videos on this, I don't know much about it, but we're just throwing this idea out there. Part of the idea is the fact that you can have it, but in the end, like, you have to come to ruin. Like, you have to be destroyed at the end. And we look at a lot of these people, and there's so many. Like, we could just go on. We can, forever. Elvis, we look at like, right now, R. Kelly, Alex Jones, Bill Cosby. Mm-hmm. What if they did sign a contract? What if they did make a deal, and at the end of their life, at the end of their contract, it has to be taken from them? You know what I'm saying? It almost seems like something like that's happening. Or are they just finding out all these dirt and like all these people were douchebags from the beginning? Do they have to go along with it? Do they have to kind of accept their fate? Can you see that as being an option or a scenario that's being played out with all these celebrities? I mean, you know what I'm saying? What's her name? Aunt Becky from Full House. All that stuff going on with her, with paying for her kids to get into school and all that stuff that just hit the news too. I know her
I'm not
but...
familiar. I'm not familiar. I'm not entirely sure what you're asking.
Well, I'm asking, do you think that some of these people, as far as the Illuminati or whatever, or some of these celebrities, have they signed contracts or made secret oaths or pacts that they can be successful, but at the end of their term, at the end of their success, they have to, maybe it's a God thing. Maybe it's the path, when you choose the path of darkness, in the end, it doesn't end well. Look at Michael Jackson. Sure. Look at Bill Cosby. Maybe it's just the way the universe works, but maybe it's a signed oath. Yeah. That, hey, you can have what we're going to give you all this money, this beautiful life. You're going to, drink the finest of wines and eat from a golden spoon. But at the end, we're going to take it. You only have 40 years to do this, and we're going to help you. But part of our ritual is we have to rip it from you. The stars must fall. Like, what do you think?
I don't know. I think that's definitely a possibility that it could be some sort of Illuminati thing. Yeah, I'm open to that. I also think it could be, you get the money, you get the power, you get the fame, just like from a layperson's perspective, you just don't, we can't handle all that. We can't, like, as humans, we're not meant to have that much pressure on ourselves. And so we end up snapping at some point and go down a dark path. Look at people like Johnny Depp. Like, you get to a certain level of success, he never wanted to be the Disney Pirates of the Caribbean guy. He wanted to be like the art film guy, and then suddenly he's everywhere and he can't go anywhere without being noticed. Like, that level of pressure for the human brain, you eventually turn to, he said that he spends like $500,000 on wine every month. It's like, what do you do? You don't have a life anymore outside of this box that you've created for yourself. And so eventually you just go crazy because you can't just exist in nature and in the world and really enjoy life for what it is, because you are this product that has been created, and you can't escape that no matter what you do, unless you like Chappelle out to Africa or something, go to another country because you don't want to be a part of it. And there's theories about Michael Jackson actually not being dead and leaving the country, faking his death to leave the country just so that he could go and live a normal life for a while. I'm not saying I believe it, but it makes sense. Like, when you get to that point, that level of stardom where you're like, I either kill myself to get away from the madness, like the constant cycle of cameras in my face, no matter where I go, or I, leave the country and go live amongst simpler people. Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. Dan, I appreciate you coming on, hanging out with me, man. I really enjoyed this podcast. We're getting into a bunch of conspiracy theories, all that kind of stuff, talking about the moon and everything else as well. Let people know where they can go to check out the trailer for the documentary, and as well, you have an Indiegogo campaign where people can help fund it because it's definitely costly. You've kind of pulled back on some other things that you're doing so that you can focus more upon making this documentary. Let everybody know the links that they can go to get involved and help you create this film, man.
For sure, man. First off, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been fun, long, good, in-depth chat. I don't get enough of that in my life, even though I do it all.
I know, right?
I don't get enough of the crazy stuff. I really
hit and
enjoy
miss.
it.
It's hit and miss.
Yes. But yeah, the podcast you can find at tsidpod.com. It's called The System Is Down, where we talk about all these things, conspiracies, politics, and religion, do so with an open, civil mind. And it's on all the platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and all those things too, YouTube. For the film itself, the documentary, you can find it by going to themoonthemyththelegend.com or moonmythlegend.com. And you can you can look it up on Indiegogo. I don't actually necessarily need money because I know how to make all the things, but I'm going to run into some snags along the way that will need some financing. But mostly the Indiegogo is just a way to pre-order. So you can get digital copies, you can get the DVD, you can get posters and merch and stuff like that. Moonmythlegend.com.
It's happening with or without you, is what you're trying to say.
Exactly. I'm doing this not based on your support, but if you want to be a part of it, you can get your name in the credits on the film as a producer because you're supporting it and that type of thing. But it will happen one way or another. I will be doing it. And I set the goal as low as you could, which I think is just like $500. So yeah, it's going to happen. And you can check out all the stuff at moonmythlegend.com.
Thank you, man. Thanks for the podcast, bro. I enjoyed it. Everybody, get your money right. Go out there and support this man. And we got a lot of good feedback from different people in the chat. They loved you, man.
Very cool.
And I appreciate it, dude. We'll do it again soon, man.
Absolutely. Anytime you want me, man. Just
all right,
let me know.
have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Peace.
See ya.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, make sure y'all go and check out the episode that I did with him on his podcast. So I did an episode. It's been some time ago now, probably over a year, but it was a good show. And like I say, he took a chance having me on, and some of his followers, some of his people quit watching, quit paying attention when I came on as a guest. So make sure that was a good episode though. Make sure y'all go check that out. Yeah. Man, so many conspiracy theories, right? Where do they end? I mean, you see why the people make a good living talking about these conspiracy theories and stuff. And I don't really, I call myself not really, getting into a lot of this stuff anymore. It doesn't move me that much. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. But I don't tackle a lot of these subjects anymore. From my perspective, I mean, people would say that the whole alien thing or the God thing or the spiritual ESP, all of these things, which I love to cover, right? They would say that those things are conspiracies, right? That those things are just made up and stuff, talking about aliens and stuff like that. So I think you really just got to pick your battles at the end of the day. And so because they're like one rabbit hole leads to the next. And I was talking about people getting into conspiracy theories, and so there's certain things that wake people up. There's certain things that I remember when I was working a regular job and I had to get up really early. I had to get up at eventually I had to get up at 1:30 in the morning to go to work, and I would set my alarm clock, but eventually my alarm clock wouldn't wake me up anymore. I would set the alarm and then I would sleep through it, and it would just incorporate into my dream. Like in my dream, I would be getting up, getting ready for work or getting ready for school, whatever, and it wouldn't wake me up anymore, and I had to have another alarm. So I set the regular alarm, and I set my cell phone, and the cell phone would play a different alert, and that tone is what woke me up. So the cell phone would instantly wake me up when that tone went off. And so I think it's like that spiritually. I think it's like that consciously when we're talking about conspiracy theories, politics, or religion. Those are the three major ones, right? And within those three, there's things that wake people up. You find out that the pastor's sleeping with women in the church. You're like, oh, damn. Now I've lost faith in church. Some people have lose faith in God when that happens or whatever. But it's usually something that wakes you up to start looking into the dark side, maybe. 9/11 was a big one. I know early on for me it was 9/11. I watched one of the documentaries. What was that? Fahrenheit 9/11, which really, it's deep, but it gets a lot deeper. Like, who says that? And I started listening to music. I was listening to Immortal Technique I don't listen to Immortal Technique anymore. Like, you know, but I was listening to music that talked about the government, that talked about 9/11, that talked about false flags and all of these kind of things or whatever. So that stuff woke me up early on, got into Masons, got into, and still into religion, right? The Bible and Christianity, but just kind of a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper as you keep going. And like you say, there's no end to these conspiracies. Genealogies continue. Who are the Illuminati bloodline? Like all of this stuff continues to go, and there's no end to it. There really isn't. And you find other information that contradicts what you believe, and you've been studying and even preaching or putting out videos for this stuff for years, and now you find information that contradicts what you've been teaching openly for years, right? And then you have to kind of renege and kind of retract and apologize, hopefully, and kind of make it right. But there's different things that wake different people up. I couldn't wake up to that alarm. Some friends, as soon as they hear that alarm, they're up and at 'em, ready for work, you know. And so I respect it, right? I respect that different people are in certain types of communities and groups, and they believe certain types of information for a reason. So, but I think that it all ties in together. So for me, I'm at this point now to where, like, there's nothing that you can tell me that's going to shock me. Like, that's where I am with conspiracy research. That goes for flat earth. That goes for hollow moon. That goes for all of it. That goes for 9/11. That goes with false flags, whatever. I think a lot of people are brand new to that. So they're like, oh, man, I found out all this information. I seen a video. Why is the same crisis actor in every video? Why is she showing up? Why is this lady showing up at every event? You know, these different things that kind of stick out to you. Well, you know, hey, something's going on, man. Something's going on. There's a lot going on. And whatever it is that wakes you up to that higher truth, to start asking those bigger questions, man. People start fighting for it tooth and nail. Again, religion. You were hooked on drugs. You were an alcoholic. You were a savage. And then you gave your life to Christ. Now you're at peace with God. You want to tell everybody, you have the secret of the universe. You have the secret formula to end alcoholism. You have the secret formula to end pornography addiction. You have the secret formula so you're not a jerk anymore. And it's Jesus. So you start telling everybody, screaming it from rooftops, doing whatever you can, and you've become annoying because that's your spiel. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. That's understandable. It changed your life. You're going to want to tell everybody. You're going to be overbearing. You're going to suffer persecution. You know, you keep telling people. Same thing with veganism. You know, somebody finds veganism. They start watching documentaries from PETA. They start watching documentaries about, you know, the big, you know what I'm saying, farming industries and what they're doing to these animals and how they're breeding them and the chemicals they're shooting into them. And it's like inhumane. So that becomes your gospel. That becomes, you're telling everybody. You're making people mad. You're known that every time you come up, you're the vegan guy or you're the weight loss guy or whatever it is. You're known for that. And so people just cling on to these truths or whatever. And at the end of the day, I don't think that any one of these things in and of itself is the end all when it comes to authority or when it comes to truth or the answer. I think it's right there in the middle of all of it. In the middle of all of it, the conspiracies, the research, the religion, Jesus, all of it, it's right in the middle. You go to any church and you got Jesus, but they're obese, they're still depressed. You know, the scripture says that you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free. How come if your church has the truth, why is everybody bound up by pornography addiction, pill addiction? Why are the divorce rates so high in church? You have Jesus, but you can't keep your marriage together. Like, what's going on? Like, there's some type of facade that you're living in that really doesn't have any power, doesn't have any weight. Whatever religion, whatever, you know, conspiracy, it's not an end all to it. So again, when you come to me with these different conspiracies, I believe in the devil. I believe in like a you know what I'm saying, a negative energy or entities that maybe all together make up Satan, or make up a kingdom of darkness that is the adversary, not to God, but is the adversary to us. that fight against us, that war with us in the spirit realm in heavenly places. I believe in that. I believe there's a battle going on for your mind. There's a battle going on for your soul. 100%. The universe doesn't exist without positive and negatives. You have to have the duality. You have to have both sides for any of this to work. Just to have the battery, you have to have the positive and the negative. You have to have the yin and the yang. It's in all of it. So for you to be able to make that contrast and understand that you're in the middle, there is a balance. I'm telling you, it's not just all or nothing. And our minds work like that. Religion works like that. It's either all or nothing. You can't be lukewarm. All or nothing. And we've just been on these waves where like we're either all in or we're all out. It's all this or all that. We're 100% here, 100% there. It is a balance there with your religion, with your spirituality, and all of this stuff. So that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. There's nothing you can tell me that's going to blow my mind. I don't have to search it out to prove it. I know the devil is wicked. I know that people are dark and wicked. I know that there's people ruling. I've done enough research. I've watched enough documentaries. I've had enough experiences spiritually to know that there's more going on, that there's a good side, there's a bad side, and that the Bible is true when it says, choose this day who you will serve. Who are you going to serve? Knowingly or unknowingly? So that's why I don't really get into a lot of it. I don't really look into it. I've mentioned, it's splitting the fan base. They tell you don't talk about religion, politics. I guess we could throw conspiracies in there. Don't talk about it because you're going to split your fan base. I don't want to do that. I don't, even though we already do. Exactly. We talked about at the beginning. We're talking about, spirituality, conspiracies. Now we're talking about Jesus. So you're just kind of fine tuning your niche to a smaller audience, because like with each idea, with each stance that you take or you talk about or say that you believe in, you're going to fine tune it down even smaller, but I'm okay with that. That's cool. But essentially, I said that on a podcast where I interviewed Santos Bonacci. Like, I knew what Flat Earth was. I knew how big it was. I have a bunch of friends who are into it. I never got into it, even with a platform. I seen it because I know rabbit trails. I know how you can get into it and it will consume you. Any of it. The Jesus thing, the conspiracies, the religious, the politics, it can consume you. I did not need and don't need anything like that to consume me. To be spiritually well-rounded, instead of focusing on all the negative stuff or whatever. I understand the government lies. I understand that the pastors lie. People lie. It's people. We're dealing with people. People lie. So when it comes down to dealing with Flat Earth, for me, I said this on the Santos Bonacci show. The first really deep research I did, I guess, or conversation I had was with Santos Bonacci. And I think he's one of the leading experts when it comes to Flat Earth. So I had Santos Bonacci on, but I was able to see what Flat Earth did to him. It did to his fan base and did to him. And he split his fan base right down the middle. And because that became all he talked about. And he, from someone who was well-rounded in spirituality, in what I would call some biblical truth as well, the zodiac, the body, the mind, the spirit, how everything works, being very well-rounded, it shifted to where it became all about Flat Earth or all about veganism and making fun of meat eaters and making fun of those type of people. So I've had Santos Bonacci on a couple times. I had that conversation with him, but I seen what it did to him, and I seen what it's done to other people and how other people laugh at it. So I made sure that I didn't go down that road to split the fan base in half. Not really. I mean, I know that it would do that, but that it would pull me away from what I'm called to do, and I didn't need that. It's not that I don't believe in it or it's not a thing or whatever to me. It's whatever. It doesn't. Again, for me, what does it have to do with the price of rice in China? What does it change about the way that I operate the type of father that I am, the type of friend that I am, the type of husband that I am, getting into flat earth and just, it's interesting. Read it for yourself, look into it. But when you become a spokesperson for the Flat Earth Society, that becomes your gospel without even knowing it or without even wanting it to be. So, and now we look at this now. So I see Horry Sheets, he's in the chat, and he says, TruthSeekah, I'm close with many of the bigger speakers of Flat Earth, Mark Sargent, David Wise, Bob from Globebusters, Robbie Davison, who run big events, and I've done commercials. How do you feel about Santos Bonacci on it? I see what it done. Santos is kind of in a bad place, man, because of all that kind of stuff. And also, how do you feel about Logan Paul being a big name, one of the biggest name flat earthers now? Logan Paul. A lot of people have kind of put their credibility on the line because they believed in it. They believed in it, and then they've kind of, B.O.B., the rapper, he definitely stuck his head out there. Now there's all the other people saying, well, those guys are shills. Those guys are controlled opposition. They were planted by the the government to get in here and trick people, mess people up. I've had people say that about me. You definitely hear that about Jordan Maxwell. Somebody commented a while ago and said that, all these names and all these people there's documentaries and videos exposing them. You haven't made it unless there's a video exposing you. Your favorite pastor, your favorite teacher, there's videos exposing them. And if there's not, Brother Wayne will make one. That's what he does. Oh, Triple M says Logan Paul is the next young Toe Rogan. Yeah, he's trying to take off in the podcasting game. He's seen money. He's seen that there was a niche there, so he's got his podcast going on, interviewing a bunch of big names. That is so weird, man. It's so weird. But anyway, I think it's enough of the rambling for here. It was a good show. I enjoyed getting into conspiracy theories. I like them, and it reminds me of like when I first got into this type of stuff, because it was into some of the things that kind of pull you. But you don't want that to become your gospel. You don't want that to be what you're known for. I'm known for the guy who proved that the earth is flat, or the guy who argues with people about the flat earth or whatever. I don't want to be that guy. Some of you have become that guy. Don't even know it. Not just flat earth. You become that guy that is, hey, watch out for him. Stay away from him. You've given him good reason to. Oh, so Horry says, y'all check out his channel too. I check him out when he goes live sometimes as well. He says, what I do is go on chat roulette, Tiny Chat and other places, and ride in the Tesla that they launched, speaking that about flat earth to unsuspecting internet goers. It's funny. Yeah, man, I've seen some of that. It is funny. Chat roulette is crazy. Very crazy. I don't go on there, but I've seen those videos where people do it. So anyway, yeah, that's the end of this show, man. I'm gonna go ahead and end it. Let me know what topics you want to see me cover. Like I exist for the audience as well. I do take suggestions and stuff, especially for people who support on Patreon. Most of the time, people will hit me up and say, hey, look into this guy, try to get him on. I do send those emails out. If I have people who support me and they want to hear so-and-so on the show, I send the emails. I don't always hear back, but I do send those emails out most of the time. Let me know if there's any particular guests you'd like to have on the show or any topics that you'd like to see me cover. Try to make it happen. Even though I don't really get into the conspiracy stuff, I know 100%, obviously look at the numbers, that some of the conspiracy stuff is what the fans like they want to hear those crazy theories. I don't know why. It sells. People say that it doesn't, but it does, man. I'm not really, the more interviews I do with people and the more I talk about this stuff, the less I want to, the less I believe people. All these spiritual gurus come on here, the less I believe them, and I can see through it. Maybe it's a spiritual gift of discernment, but I can read people. I can see through it, and I'll have people on here. I'm just like, man, you don't even believe what you're telling me, and you know it, and I know it. You have these people on here, and but at the end of the day, we can say we had the conversation. And there's a lot of people who are just afraid of the conversation. And that's one thing you could say that I didn't do. And just doing that has kind of created the platform that I'm not scared to have the conversation. When we were told not to have the conversation from a Christian perspective, told not to, don't give these people a platform, don't let them tap into your platform, all of these kind of things. Most of you guys wouldn't know who I was unless I networked with these people outside of these realms. Obviously, Danny Guerrero, he tells me straight up, he found me by listening to the Busy Bone interview that I did. Chris Garner's in chat. You said you found me through the Kelly Coffee interviews back in the day. Christy Folks found me because I interviewed Seven, the rapper from Hog Mob, Christian rapper Seven. So, but there was something that you resonated with. So I'm open to kind of having these conversations with people, and I understand here a little, there a little, and that at the end of the day, I feel like I have something to offer too. So let me know what you guys want to see more of. Head on over, check out my Patreon. Like I said, this is a listener-funded show. I am able to do this full-time because of your support. And I'm able to do this and my music and all the documentaries and things that I bring to the table. We're building a community via Discord. All of that is help funded by you guys. So head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to extra podcast. You get my mailing list. I send out exclusive stuff, meditations, a little bit of everything. We're going to have our roundtable discussion tonight, every Thursday, School of the Mystics. You get access to that too. Bunch of cool stuff all the way from $1 or more a month. You get access to it. Just show me that you care. Show me that you help. Put your money where your mouth is, really. Deb Cassie says, I found you on Facebook being mentioned by Jay Friedman. That had to be a long time ago. I'm pretty sure he's not mentioning me anymore. But that's what's up. Yeah. See, I mean, everybody, that's a beautiful story too. Once you see the chat blowing up and a lot more people in the community, we're talking about understanding the mind, understanding why you believe a certain type of doctrine or belief system. And I want to get to the bottom of it. Even this. Why do you like what I do? I mean, some people like it because of the spiritual side. Some people like it because of the Jesus side, that I still talk about Christ in the midst of this kind of stuff. Everybody has a different reason why they're here, and there's different people how they got here to be a part of this community. It's not just a podcast. It's not just a talking head. Like, I really believe that we are doing life together. Okay, Christian says, I found you by the first album. I don't know what you mean by that. What do you think my first album was? So let me know about that. I don't know it was first. Huh, that's weird. You don't know what album it was? A lot of people, I can say, they didn't find me until I started doing more of the spiritual hip-hop. There's not a lot of people that have hung around from the early days, right? But there are some. Shout out to those people for sure. Okay, that was my, Spiritual Alchemy. That definitely wasn't the first album. That was like my third or fourth, for real. Yeah, my first album came out in 2006. Most people don't own it, but I did put it up on iTunes. It's a Christian rap album. It's Fight Music is the name of it, but it's kind of corny, very corny actually. So all good. So yeah, y'all check out my Patreon, check out all that stuff. Everything helps, man. Any little bit helps, and so. Even if you can't give and stuff like that, people sharing my work and just being a part of the community. We're growing. It's good stuff. I have a Discord. If you don't know what that is, look in the description of this video or this. If you're listening to this on any of the other servers, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, the link's there too. So, yep, check it out. With that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. And I love you guys. Northside says I was recommended in their recommended videos. That's the best way. Like when YouTube works with you and recommends your videos and it falls upon the right person. Half and Half says, I found you from the Jordan Maxwell interviews. That's what's up. I mean, those are big interviews. And thank you for the donation, by the way. I didn't get to say it. It played out. I know it played out on the chat here, but thank you for the donation. What's up? Dumbledore says, I found you in the astral plane. Just kidding. Yeah. I found you because I was your mother. And I was your little brother in the past life. And I found you. And I'm here to reconcile what I did to you in the past life. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Hold it together, people. You can do it. You can have a peace of mind. I found it in Christ. It worked. I was going crazy. Those schizophrenics I'm talking about, I was becoming one. Like really, like having my mind taken from me by entities that felt like they were a lot stronger than I was. But there's a peace of mind out there. So anybody out there who's struggling with mental illness, I believe there's help. I believe there's different ways and different things that we can do to cope with these energies, these vibrations that we're receiving from everywhere, the different winds being pushed around by the winds. I believe those winds are solar winds, spiritual winds. The Bible talks about being pushed around by doctrinal winds. I believe that those winds are coming from a lot of different places and that you can be grounded on your foundation. For me, the foundation is Christ. You know, I urge you to seek that out. That foundation will not be moved. You can build upon it. Everything else that can be will be shaken. If you build your house upon shifting sands, it could be shaken. When the rain comes, something's going to happen. Go out there and build a sandcastle at the beach. And what happens when it rains? Or what happens when the tide rises? What happens to that sandcastle? But if you build a house on a firm foundation, anything that you build on top of that, it's going to be good. It's going to be shaken. You have to prove what you believe. There are going to be other ideas and doctrines and theologies. But at the end of the day, that foundation won't be shaken. There's a peace there. A peace that passes all understanding, man. And it's good. Good stuff. If you need prayer, if you need somebody to talk to, I am available via Discord or email or whatever. Just, hit me up. Keep it civil. Love you guys. With that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. We're going to do this again very soon. Let me know, too, in the chat. I'm thinking about adding a Wednesday night live stream as well. Maybe something different. Maybe a round table with more than one, because I've been talking about that since we got started. Maybe a round table or maybe a prayer session. Wednesday night live prayer session. Kind of done both of those in the past. Let me know what you guys think. Hit me up on Discord. Peace, peace. Love y'all.
Your will so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine. Your will so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.